Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Red Pill Nation Hangout 370. I am your host and really here but not all there chair, Naroki 5. Wilson unfortunately had to step away because he just could not resist pleasuring himself before the show. So, hopefully his wrist will not be too sore when he gets back. But Rearson's with me. V will be dropping in at some point. He's waiting for his phone to charge at this point. So yeah, that will be all. That will also be incoming as well. For just a quick reminder here, I am at Patreon as the Roki5. I do have a Subscribe Star, but they still haven't verified it yet. So yeah, I mean, I technically don't have a Subscribe Star. I have a YouTube, which I only use for ease of uploading, but it's there as Gold Dragon. I am at Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, MGTOW TV. I am also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe. I don't know if TLB Talks is still even up and operating at this point, so we'll see. And Getter. So the topics tonight are, and it's a really interesting show. Just a quick bit of news here. Every once in a while, Hollywood tends to go insane, and individuals decide that they are really super important, and they do a whole bunch of insanely woke stuff, which turns out to be a little bit too much to cover in a episode with all of the other stuff. So what we have to do is we have to break away, and I have to do a Hollywood special, which will be 371, which we'll be doing later in the week. I thought about doing it tomorrow, and it's like, no, I don't want to do it tomorrow. I don't want to do it tomorrow. Yuck. Ick. So that is that will be incoming. If you're wondering about some of the insane Hollywood stuff, well, let me tell you what the insane Hollywood stuff is about. The insane Hollywood stuff is about, and let me just take a look here. Oh yeah, The View impressed everybody with their grasp on science. Out of that, that's number one. The Romeo and Juliet one is really bad. There's a fairly large section. There's going to be a fairly large section on Star Wars, and yeah, leftists and wokesters are pulling their usual meltdowns. This time over the new Joker movie and over Civil War. That will be 370. That's just a little taste of what's going to happen with 371. But what are we going to do with 370? Well, topic number one, Iran fires 300 missiles at Israel. I think it was allegedly Hezbollah, but it was basically Iran. Two, the North Face is caught sending supplies to a grooming camp that was operating clandestinely. Three, they really want us to start liking professional women's sports. Four, here we go, folks. Dexter Reed was the first attempt at repeating George Floyd. It failed because Twitter refused to play ball. That was an interesting one. Topic number five, newest woke Tomb Raider game is a woke piece of S-H-I-T. Six, pervert in North Carolina ruins it for Planet Fitness and stockholders. And seven, Feminist Scholar comes out with paper to reclaim Misandry from Patriarchal Norms. Yeah, I got and there might be a bonus topic. I'm gonna just we're gonna start out though, with just a couple of small, tinier topics, ones that I didn't think warranted a lot of attention to start out with, but I think they're going to be topics that probably do need to be discussed in a very limited sense. The first one is, of course, the death of O.J. Simpson. Now, we're not going to get too much into the death of O.J. Simpson, but what I will tell you about that is that he did die. He did die from cancer. There's a lot of bad feelings coming up around it for a few people. I personally think that he did do it, although again, they kind of botched it was O.J. Simpson's dream team that got him off on that criminal charge, and of course Mark Fuhrman getting caught lying on the stand all those years ago. And there's a lot of people who weren't even born when that event took place. But he died today. I guess he's kind of happy because his wife's killer finally died, and I mean he finally gets to meet his wife's killer in person, and that's pretty much it on that. And I'm going to turn it over to Rearson if he has something else to say on this particular.
What, with OJ? Okay. Regards to OJ, the only thing I have to say that he seems to have died rather unexpectedly from cancer. Seems to, and he was pushing the facts. I don't know. I'm more of the opinion that, actually, I'm just waiting to find out when Arnold's going to when he's going to die from cancer pretty soon. I mean, the guy is certainly old. Was a big vax pusher. But just waiting for that to happen, folks. Just waiting for that to happen. I don't have anything to say one way or the other about the whole thing, because it was just. Prior to that point, I don't remember anything dominating the news like that since I was aware of the news. Like, there wasn't anything. I mean, I suppose there was the what the hell is it? The Iran-Contra scandal. That affair that went on the TV for quite a while, but that was political.
Yeah, that was the late 80s. I mean, this whole thing with O.J. Simpson actually went down before it ended after I met you, but it all started before I even met you.
Okay.
It was there was that old friend Julie of ours, and I was saying the same thing. Like, we could have been jurors on that during that trial, because I mean, we just didn't care, but it was like literally on the news everywhere, and it was such a big story at the time that people actually remember where they were when the story went down. That's how big this story was when it came out. I thought it was going to be guilty, and it was read off as not guilty. Mm-hmm. Ronald Goldman's dad was just absolutely honking pissed, and of course later on during the civil trial, O.J. Simpson literally lost almost everything he owned, and Ronald Goldman's dad just always, until he died, he hounded O.J. Simpson like literally every day of his life. O.J. Simpson did end up going to jail for armed robbery at some point. He actually got a fairly large, like a disproportionately large sentence. In fact, at the time it happened, it was speculated that the sentence he got was it seemed out of proportion to what he actually did. And it was speculated at the time that when it happened, that it was that he was part of it was the judge basically sentencing him in part because of what happened around Nicole Simpson and Ronald Goldman, because he got like a 15-year sentence or something like that for armed robbery, which was, just considering what was involved in it, really was out of proportion to what the crime actually was. But yeah,
if I remember correctly, I believe it was over some of his paraphernalia that was near and dear to him. I think that's what it was. Anyway, regardless, don't have anything more to say about it. Finally, it's over.
Yes, finally. The second one, and I know you're gonna love this one, Rearson. David Hogg. Yes, he is still around. Famous for having survived an event that he wasn't even at the school for. It's been speculated on this show and a lot of other places that, well, I mean, actually, his parents are both in government intelligence anyway. David Hogg also came across as a bit of a whiny, snotty little prick. Couple things happened to him. Now, I have it down as he got owned by a Second Amendment advocate, and he actually did, because he was, unlike most self-absorbed, narcissistic leftists who have enough brains to not have an open mic at one of their events, he actually did have an open mic at one of his events. So this immigrant from China, actually, she went up to the stand. She explained where she was from and what she did, and she looked straight at Dave and went, "Can you guarantee me that what happened in China isn't going to happen here?" And David Hogg just looked at her and said, "Well, no, I can't, obviously, because, I mean, I have no control over what the government says." And she responds back. She goes, "Yeah, and that's the reason why you're never taking my guns."
Hi, my name is Lily Tan Williams. Welcome to my Live Free or Die state. Actually, I am a Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them. And 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government? Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be tyrannical.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over, because I will never give up my guns. Never. And you should go to China to see how gun control works for dictatorship of CCP.
Yep.
Loved it. Apparently, he's also his charity foundation is under investigation because there's huge amounts of expenses that David Hogg cannot account for. Knowing what a snotty little effing prick,
just say it,
fucking arrogant little prick that he was.
Jeffy show.
I'm not. I'm not at all surprised, and of course, Rearson here absolutely was in love with David Hogg, so I'm sure he's got something to say on this one. Just don't hold back, please. Like, I know you like the candy coat stuff, Rearson, but you're free. We're on my show now. You're free to say whatever you want to.
Yeah, nothing personal, just Jaffe, but God, we're gonna be a little bit more structured. I got nothing more to say about that little shit. That should really just have his asshole. God, no, actually, no. I'm not going to say a fucking thing about the guy because he's as real as an American $2 bill or a Canadian $3 bill. And to me, everything about him has been illegitimate, and that's the nicest set of words that I can actually use. But that's all that I'm going to say. Don't care. I have less than a shit to give for David Hogg. So, all yours.
And I think I don't really want to talk about the guy either. I never really liked him. He's just got such a punchable fucking face. Pardon the language. Anyway, let's get on.
We're not going to pardon any language because this is your show. And what do we have for standards?
Oh, no standards. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So bleep, 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 anal penetration, David Hogg, bleep, 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 whips and karats, and Gimp-soon. Bleep, 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 bleep,
like it.
Bleep, 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 likes it. Bleep, 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 bleep. Worshipper of Slanesh. Bleep, bleep. I hope you got all that. Okay, so let's get
I'm not taking notes.
All right, let's get into let's get into topic number 1 here. Okay, and this got moved up because it literally happened yesterday. What happened was, for me, I got back to my room and I, of course, did my typical standing. And what I first came across was topic number 7, which I informed Rearson about. And then, of course, what I kept seeing in the sidebar of my Twitter account was World War III. World War III. World War III. Looked over on Facebook, same sort of thing going on. So it was like, okay, time for me to click. And what I clicked, I saw videos of, well, I believe it's actually Hezbollah that fired these missiles, but there were so many of them that there's no way it could have just been, there's no way a country or a large intelligence organization could have the number of missiles being fired was beyond, I think, the total capacity of Hezbollah. They could not have done this without some type of state or large organizational support.
Iran on Saturday night launched a wave of drones and missiles at Israel in the first ever direct attack, in retaliation for last week's deadly Israeli strike on an Iranian embassy complex in Syria. Israel said 99% of them have been intercepted by air defenses. What's the situation on the ground?
The past nights, I could hear airports from my dorm room. At 1 p.m. in this morning, I got the security alert on my phone, and the ringing was consistent and sustained. I saw on my phone that there were many locations of strikes, and I was frightened.
凌晨夜里头 3、4点的时候，那这个爆炸的声音就不太一样了。像比如说我们家孩子们都是睡在地下掩体里，但仍然地下掩体很深，但是仍然能够听到这个轰隆隆的爆炸的声音，整个地都在颤动的声音，一整个晚上都没有睡觉。
Will a war break out between Iran and Israel?
这个事情现在基本看呢，接近到此为止了。从政治效果上看，伊朗的政治目的已经达到。那么从以色列方面来看呢，第一，没有受到实质性的打击，也就是说没有重大的人员伤亡，也没有重大的基础设施损失和军事设施的这个损失。此外呢，现在呢，以色列他所关心的还是如何集中精力资源，尽快的解决加沙问题，同时呢，免除内塔尼亚胡个人的政治麻烦。他没有精力，也没有这个足够的资源呢，去应对多条战线。
How will the United States respond?
美国今天的动向说是要召开西方7国集团的首脑会议，预示着下一步美国要联手其他西方国家呀，在这个联合国安理会啊搞些动作，推出新的决议，对这个伊朗呢进行这个妖魔化，这个可能的这个动作呀，它会遭到国际社会的反对。他现在呢，并没有意愿，包括美国的其他西方国家盟友说要支持以色列去同伊朗去开战。形势的发展呢，现在基本上在逐步的降温，在画上句号。
Now, I don't know the exact casualties. I do know that between Britain, Israel, and the United States, almost all the missiles got shot down. There was a couple that did get through, but don't know about casualties or anything, and I haven't really had time to look. The whole situation is, well, it has, I mean, there were two possible scenarios that potentially led to a major global war. One of them was, of course, NATO getting involved in the situation in Ukraine, which got ramped up when the French openly announced that they were going to be sending military forces into the Ukraine as support. Not combat troops, but as support. That was done likely as some type of an imperative to try to goad NATO into going in there, but apparently they didn't take the bait. This situation, though, is, well, it's effectively an open declaration of war, even if, and the diplomats were able to, for lack of a better term, smooth things out with the Israelis. But the situation, though, in the way it went down, and the way Iran acted, and the way that the US and Britain had to intervene with military forces of their own in order to prevent what was likely, if they had just simply allowed these missiles to land, would likely have been an absolute bloodbath and massacre. You have a situation now where Israel is going to have to retaliate in some capacity. They might not do it right away, but they are going to have to do it at some point. Now, I was just before we came onto the air, I was discussing with Rearson here, I was listening to a video on Instagram about 2 months ago, and this guy was going through the 3 potential scenarios that the people who staged the soft coup, and that's what it was in 2020. That was a soft coup designed to put Joe Biden, the people who were supporting Joe Biden, Joe Biden is the figurehead. The people who are running it are the people in the shadows. There were three ways they were going to try to prevent Trump from, because they know if Trump gets in, their goose is cooked, right? Especially in all the people who were involved with the mass arrests on J6, their ass is grass, and they damn well know it. And I mean, it's not that I'm Team Trump, but if I was in Trump's shoes, I would be rather angry about how they have acted, and how they acted around J6, and how they deliberately twisted that event around. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of what happened on J6, because we actually did an interview with Henrik, who, by the way, might be back in the Henrik and Scooby, who were both at J6, but we weren't on the backside. They were on the other side of the building, the peaceful side of the building, when it all went down. They went nowhere near they actually went nowhere near the White House. The whole thing, though, is that and this is something that I'm probably going to have to discuss off the air with Rearson here at the end of the show. The big issue here is that Israel has a simple if hit back. If Israel chooses to retaliate, at least openly, that's the start of World War III. Because if Israel attacks Iran, that basically sets off a series of dominoes that the current Biden administration will not be able to contain. And we will be in a full-scale world war. Now, that is the one part. The other part, though, and this is the part that really disturbs me and really actually kind of even makes me a little angry, is the fact that this may not... Hold on a second. The whole thing is about what's going on, is that this falls firmly into the category of one of the things that they would try to do to maintain power in the U.S., which is to generate some type of crisis or event which causes them to either postpone or cancel the election. Now, the White House, the people in the White House don't have on paper the legal political authority to cancel the election. However, I have read Bill Cooper's Behold a White Horse. I know that there are emergency procedures that can be enacted by the president or the people controlling the president, and they might just attempt to use those to try and cancel the election. I have to point something out, though. In order to make this work, they would need the cooperation of both the House and the Senate. They're going to have one hell of a time getting the support that they need in the Senate. Let's start the House. The Senate, is a Democrat majority for now, but they would have a very difficult time trying to get all of the Democrats to play ball on something like this would be a difficult problem in itself. And even then, right, you still have the Supreme Court, which absolutely would not allow this to become an actual issue unless, of course, and this is the part that really concerns me, because it is still May, June, July, August, September, October, 7 months to the election. There's more than enough time given how porous the border is, there's still more than enough time for Middle Eastern terrorists to launch a terrorist strike somewhere in the U.S. to prompt the use of emergency powers. that might be enough. At least it wouldn't cancel the elections, but it would postpone them. And if it was a large enough disaster, it might actually postpone them for a while. And, the question that I'm asking myself around this particular issue is, are we dealing with people that are capable of doing such a thing? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes. Yes, we are dealing with people who would be that underhanded. Remember, they are arresting people from J6, for instance, who did not actually go into the congressional building. They have issued arrest warrants for people over things like memes. Joe Biden actually tried to get OSHA to enforce the vaccine mandate on a scale that just simply wasn't legal to do. I could go intentionally causing racial division. God, I could run off like a ton of things that this particular administration has done. And yeah, so are we dealing with an administration that would deliberately allow Hezbollah or another terrorist organization access across the border so they could engage in a terrorist act large enough to postpone the election? Yes, they would. They might even be so full of their own, they might be so high on their own farts that they might even try to blame Trump over it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rearson.
To be honest, I don't see this turning into World War, whichever World War number you want to give. Again, the Cold War was basically World War III.
I don't either, but you know what? Continue.
It's just whatever is simplest for people that just are relatively ignorant to the kinds of warfare that are occurring or that have occurred that don't directly involve guns and, well, militaries scoring off against each other. Anyway, if the U.S. goes in, and supports Israel on this one, then Russia is going to come into the side of Iran, and then they could probably get China to get involved to back them up as well. That alone would make me, and I don't care how big you are, I would not want to go up against the Russian military. They've had now, 2.5 years of warfare engagement in Ukraine. I would consider that to be a war-hardened military machine. The Chinese, while they haven't been in a war per se to my knowledge, if they were to be coordinating, fighting alongside the Russians, if they get involved to that degree, they would become very, they would grow up pretty fast, shall we say, or they would gain their experience fairly quickly. Another factor, and I don't know exactly how much this affects the actual U.S. military machine, but how much of their electronics are manufactured either in China or by a Chinese company that would be in Malaysia or Indonesia or Taiwan or Hong Kong for that matter. So I don't think that the electronic systems of the fighters or anything that they've got, like their warships, their tanks, whatever, I don't feel that it is honestly, it's reliable. I mean, really, all you need to do is install some a very small chip. I've heard about it being like the size of a grain of rice. It's a very subjective term just because rice does range in sizes, but all you need is just someone to not notice. There's an extra little device on that circuit board, and do you know what it does? And third, how much money's been sent over to Ukraine? You know, I like to think about and ponder about Canada basically being a bankrupt country because Trudeau and his cronies have basically spent Canada into a hole that I don't think we can get out of. And as bad as things are for us, plus the mass migration, oh, and the illegals that are military age, that could be cells waiting to be told to do your shit. Well, you know, where these, shall we say, quote, NGOs are passing, would somehow the orders would be passed through the chain of command. Okay, stir up some shit. And all of a sudden, you now have two fronts to work on. The external one, which would be between Israel and Iran, and then all of a sudden you've got shit happening in your borders. Now, for myself, again, having been being the anon between the two of us, and typically for anyone that's been on the channel as a guest, this is the one thing that's been on the Q post that's been said repeatedly is that Israel will be saved for last. Now, all that I'm going to say in terms about Israel is I don't have a problem with the people of the Jewish or Hebrew faith. I honestly don't. There's a woman that's in the building that I live in. She's Jewish. I've told her, simply put, if you follow or worship what's in the Torah, I have no problem. If you follow the Talmud, I've got a big problem. And that's where my distinction lies. So, having said that, and then I believe that the Israeli population is like it's almost 100% vaccinated. And I have heard that there's basically a lot of problems with the people that worship, shall we say, Yahweh or follow the Torah versus the Talmud. It's a very large to very small population, I believe, overall. But the ones that typically are in power are the ones that deal with the sketchy dark side of the religion. So all things being equal with how news is blown out of proportion and or things are staged, and since I know I'm not going to be there, and with Coach Red Pill having basically said, yeah, what's happening in Ukraine or where I am here isn't going on, like there's nothing happening here, and it's been blown way out of proportion with the media. Rest in peace, Coach Red Pill. So I'm going to say it's highly questionable. Now, am I saying that it's happening or not? I don't know, and I'm not there. And anything from the mainstream media, I don't trust. And I don't trust on a good day. Is it happening? Maybe. Can I prove it? Nope. Am I going to go out there? Oh, no. Not interested. You will see me. I would rather go to Seoul, Korea. I would ever want to go to Israel. The area of the region, the historical, cultural, theological significance of it all. I don't give a shit. I really don't fucking care. And I don't. So we'll see what's going to happen with the markets. I fully expect that something like, the price of gold and silver is going to go through the roof, or it's going to start to move very quickly. I hope not, because I want to get my hands on. I want to get my hands on
That is
some.
something that I want to talk to you about at the end of the show.
Okay. Okay, not a problem. We can certainly talk about that. So the ramifications, the ripple effects that we're going to see from the stock markets are going to be very indicative as to what's probably going to happen. The market's going to shit their pants. The stock markets are going to start to tank. And now that I think about it, I think that my departure from my employer was good timing. I just need to get my freaking money right fucking now. So, and that's all I have to say on all of that, my friend. Back to you.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that because I'm in camp right now. And but anyway, I'll talk to you about that after the show. Yeah, very serious stuff. And yeah, I've been meaning to do something around silver and gold, but I just, like, for some reason, just keep skipping my mind. And now it's sort of like, yeah, I'm going back into town soon here. I am definitely going to have to start buying some here fairly quickly, but that is something that I'm going to talk to you about off air. So let's get into the next. Let's get into the next one. This one is, oh my God, like just if you thought Bud Light in Disney were bad, the North Face. No, I skipped over something with the North Face very early on, which was the North Face basically was offering a discount to anybody who went online and took this race survey. And basically, if you admitted that you had white privilege, you would be getting 20% off certain products at the North Face. No, I am not making that up.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I am not making that up.
I got nothing.
Yeah, that was, and I didn't put that on there because there's other stuff I thought that was a lot more important. But this one was just, and it's like, I mean, maybe I should be asking you who the majority stockholders are on the North Face, because it's
I'll be right on that.
Okay, because the North Face, and I'm not, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. There are actual grooming camps that have been set up for teenage kids. The North Face was caught sending camp gear and supplies to these grooming camps, and these grooming camps knew that they were going to upset people, so they tried everything in their power to not advertise their presence outside of a certain community too much. Of course, somebody found out, somebody started doing some digging, and lo and behold, guess who showed up? And again, right, it's like with Disney. I mean, for instance, I'm willing to go see any movie. But I mean, after what Disney pulled a couple weeks ago after their stockholder meeting, You know, like I cannot in good faith see another Pixar movie. I cannot in good faith go see Star Wars. I cannot in good faith now go watch another MCU movie. Can't fucking do it. I mean, Disney also owns a couple of Disney also indirectly owns, I think, Universal or something like that. I mean, it's sort of like, you know, like I do not at this particular time feel like going to see another movie put out by that company. The North Face is now also solidly in that territory. Here's the thing, right? As I'm going along here, I am moving more and more and more towards prepping and getting myself, and because of a rather convenient situation that's happened where I live, an opening has clearly presented itself, which will enable me to move to a place where I won't be directly in the city anymore. I might still be out in the suburbs, but I'm not going to be directly out in the city anymore. And I'm also going to move to a part of the country where I actually feel like I actually want to be. And I got nothing to say. I got nothing against Edmonton or the neighborhood I've lived in. I've lived in that neighborhood for 14 years. But, you know, when I moved to Edmonton, Edmonton was never supposed to be a permanent move. Like I was not going to die in Edmonton. So I knew at some point I was going to move, and now the opportunity has presented itself. Getting back to the North Face, though, yeah, the camps knew what the reaction was going to be when they got found out, and they were getting corporate support, and they were getting a lot of corporate support, but one of their biggest supporters was the North Face. And to quote a couple of places that I heard about it, you know, like people have been avoiding mentioning that this is a coordinated conspiratorial plan to basically improve somebody's bottom line in terms of transgender drugs and also to destroy the family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you see something like this and you see the way they went about it and you see the way certain corporations gladly and willingly donated camping gear and supplies to these, and they are, let me say this, these are grooming camps. You have to go. Well, I mean, it's just like the whole thing with the symbolism when we were talking about Nickelodeon and Epstein Island, right? Like you could only see so much smoke before you actually see the fire. And this is like, you know, like this is way worse than Bud Light, considerably worse than Disney, and you know, it's there. Yeah, for me anyway. Like, there's no way that I can just dismiss this as just a bunch of coincidences anymore, because I mean, just like I said, because of the way it was going along. And I'm going to turn it over to Rearson to have his say.
All right. So we have for the top 10 shareholders coming in at number 10, Invesco Advisors. Number 9, Capital Research and Management at 2.019, 2.391. M&G Investment Management out of the UK is at 3.199. Oh, here's one of the trifecta. State Street has 3.707. Oh, I'm a little surprised that they're only at number 6, which is BlackRock Advisors LLC, 4.822. Todd Barbie. I didn't know who this person is, but seems to be a member of the family for which the company was founded. Oh, and I will get into those brands as well. It's not just North Face that this company is part of. Todd Barbie owns 5.2%. Wells Fargo is coming in at number 4 at 6.545%. Dodge and Cox, never heard of them before, 8.309, PNC Investments at 9.846, and number one, Vanguard at 10.56%.
There we go, the big three.
Yep.
It's always
Big
the big, and of course the biggest one is maybe not BlackRock, but it's Vanguard, and it's like, when we're gonna cover this again, because I mean you may as well just start looking up and tell. Well, we've already covered with who the biggest stockholders are on Planet Fitness. You've already posted that stuff up. Surprised that J.P. Morgan's not on there.
I'm a little bit surprised with that one myself too.
We're going to have to take a really serious look because J.P. Morgan isn't directly implicated in all of this stuff, but their name has appeared next to Vanguard, Fleet Street, and BlackRock.
Street. Yeah.
What?
State Street, not Fleet.
State Street has appeared next to those big three often enough that at this point in time you have to consider the very real possibility that while JP Morgan is not in with those three, they are happily and willingly looking the other way.
Yeah. So the brands. So this is all under VF Corporation. We've got Vans, Supreme, Kipling, La
Piana, or whatever it's called, yeah.
NAPA, PIJRI, Eastpak, Jan Sport, Eagle Creek. So that's for casual and active apparel, footwear, and accessories. For outdoor apparel, footwear and accessories, we've got North Face, Timberland, and we did talk about Timberland before.
Yeah, we have. I can't remember specifically about what though.
Yep. So North Face, Timberland, Smart Wool, Icebreaker, and Ultra brands. Work clothing and footwear is Dickies and Timberland Pro.
Oh, Dickies has been implicated in a whole bunch of woke shit.
Okay, well, I would say that this seems to be more than enough. The fact that this has come out for North Face, we did talk about Timberland going off the rails on something that was probably woke as well. Again, I don't remember what the fuck it was.
So I haven't discussed Dickies in particular, but because again, Dickies hadn't really, the time that I saw Dickies being mentioned, it got mentioned on the quartering. It wasn't a big enough story at the time for me to put it on the list. But now seeing the connection, and there was another one that you mentioned there that also has been connected with some woke stuff that I chose not to put on the list as well. But continue, Gerson.
The saying goes that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And with the family still having a 5% stake in the company, what sort of nasty, potentially, I can only surmise as to what kind of nasty stuff that they're all agreeing to. Because, something like this has to at some point go back to the family trust on this one to tell them, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. And who knows, maybe the family is directly involved with all of that. I have no idea. I have no idea at all. I said maybe. So it's some really sketchy shit, and I think that's probably the nicest, most polite way that I can say that. Oh, Jesus H. Titty fucking Christ. Love this fucking place. Anyway, it's, as you said, Naroki, when there's the whole thing about Comet Pizza, and then the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation linked to with the pedophile symbols. and then something else, and then Nickelodeon.
Balenciaga, and then Nickelodeon.
Balenciaga. Yeah. At this point, the more that I'm seeing large corporations be pulling this kind of shit, the less I become surprised. And in fact, if anything, and that's what it's going to typically be broken down for me now, is going to be is, well, let's see who owns what. Do we have the typical trifecta, or two out of three of the financial trifecta?
Yeah, because we've got to
are. I mean, this is now what? Yeah, this is now what, the fifth or sixth time that I've gone in, dug shit up, and found out. It's like, oh, look at this.
Oh, that's something else I'm going to have to. That's something else I'm going to have to talk to you about at the end of the show tonight. But yeah, like we did, and we once again we have Planet Fitness again, and we did the run for Planet Fitness, and when those airline got caught smuggling legals, like flying them in, there we go again, right? Like that list of companies that pulled that stuff that we did at the end of the year when we did our year in review. We should do a deep dive into all of those companies and see if those three companies keep coming up. Yeah, it's just like,
what I think sorry, if I may just add something to that thought of yours. I'll have to start taking a look at the members of the board or the managers and start to see if we get the same names popping up with these companies.
Yeah, because this is getting to the point where it's like, yeah, those three companies keep popping up, and well, JP Morgan pops up too, but JP Morgan didn't pop up with these guys. So, I mean, and like, that's the question for the rest of these mutual fund companies. I mean, why are they not actively opposing this stuff? Yeah. Like JP Morgan in particular has popped up again and again and again and again. And while JP Morgan is not mentioned as being directly linked in with those three, Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock, their name has appeared often enough that it's very clear that at the absolute least, while they may not be directly involved, they are quite clearly looking the other way.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but I mean, the Grooming Camp is just like, wow.
Well, not really, unfortunately. Again, don't get me wrong. I find this to be absolutely abhorrent, and there's no reason for this that a sane person would be able to comprehend why. But these are people that at the end of the day are effectively psychopaths. And typically you have to be of a psychopathic nature if you're going to be in charge of a large group of people. Now, I could be wrong, but I believe that to be the case. And being management or lower management is one thing, but when you work your way up the ranks and as quickly as possible and whatever else. Anyway, you see where I'm going.
No, I will say that see where you're going. Yeah.
Now, I will say that my ex from a long enough time ago had a North Face winter coat, and my God, I think at the time, this was the early 90s, she paid like $700 for it, which was a fuck ton of money for something like that. But it is one of the warmest coats that I ever had. She went back to southern Japan and left it with me, and then she wanted the damn fucking thing back. I'm like, you don't need this. You are never going to need this fucking jacket. But send it back, and it's like, damn it. So now I'm glad I don't have it, and if she still has, if she still owns it, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. So, yeah, I should come up. We should come up with some sort of a soundtrack. Number 10, you know, just to break it down, so that way we can start to see these. Well, it's yet another trend, and it's yet another, some degree or another, confirming trend in one form or another as to what's going on. So I don't have anything more to say about this one, except I'm not surprised at the end of the day, which I'm not. So, and I'll leave that all with you, my friend.
Yeah. No, it's just the grooming camps. Like, wow. You know, like, and the fact that they try again, right? I mean, you've caught school boards trying to push the trying to get that's the reason why Daniel Smith changed some of the curriculum around now, so that you parents have to sign on with certain school programs, as had changed from opt out as opposed to sign on. Parents have to sign their children onto a program rather than opt out, because what teachers were doing was that they were bringing in these programs and they were naming them in ways that disguised what they actually, hold on a second, disguised what they actually did. Is she changed the education curriculum around so that now parents have to sign on their children onto a program before the child is allowed into it, as opposed to opting out before, right? Because what would happen is they would opt out and they would do stuff like, say, put the program on, say, in the middle of the morning or the middle of the afternoon, so that the parent couldn't just basically go in and, say, take an extra long lunch to see what the hell was going on. They would have to wait a couple of, they would make it inconvenient for the parent, you know, and if the parent came in, you know, they would have it in a spot in the school where where one of the secretaries or the administrative assistant would have time to call ahead to the teacher to let the teacher know what was going on as the parent was on his way up. In one particular case, I literally saw teachers, I won't say restraining the adult, but making it very difficult for the parent to get to the kid, where he had to push his way past teachers to see what was going on. So that's the reason why. And it's like, you know, and they told this exact same thing. They named this camp in a very specific way. They described it in one way, and then when they got interviewed about it and it started to come out, it turns out it was not as advertised, right? Like, this is a grooming camp. And again, not surprised, but, you know, at how many different ways do you have to start seeing this stuff before you realize that there's very obviously a coordinated effort to get at your kids? This is not just something that people are imagining. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because we got a couple more topics to get into tonight. So let's get on with the next topic.
Alrighty.
All right. This is one, because I know you're not really a big sports person, but I sort of am. We're coming up to the NHL playoffs, so, you know, I'm going to be watching a little more hockey than I normally watch, because, you know, I played hockey as a kid, etc., etc., etc. But if you don't watch, and Rusin does not watch a lot of television. In fact, I don't think he doesn't even watch his cable. But I mean, I do watch some.
I cut the cable, I think, in 2016 or 17, something like that. No, 17 or 18. Haven't missed it. The wife had signed up for Amazon Prime. I did not log into that shit at all. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not the media person in our podcast. That's your area of expertise.
Yeah. So
my
anyway,
apologies.
No, you don't have to apologize for that. Anyway, so I though do watch sports. I also, on my social media accounts, I am subscribed to all it's specifically the NHL teams, but basically if a professional level hockey team, basketball team, football team, and even some baseball teams and soccer teams, if they have a site on Twitter or Instagram, I'm subbed to it. The sports networks, the major ones, including ESPN, which is owned by Disney, by the way, I'm subbed to. Like, I don't watch the stuff fanatically, and I have really reduced my watching of sports, especially after they started getting super woke around the BLM stuff, and the pride stuff is enough to make me just fucking nauseous. And it's, you want to call me fucking transphobic or homophobic? Fuck you, right? I don't need this.
Homophobe. Yeah. Yeah, fuck you, person. Fuck you.
I mean, keep in mind, I will freely admit, some of those pride jerseys are actually very colorful. And they actually, they look pretty good. I like how they designed some of those pride jerseys, right? They actually look very interesting and unique. Am I going to get one? No. Why am I not going to get one? Refer to topic number 2 for starters. Refer to topic, when we get to it, refer to topic number 6 for another starter. Refer to what the people tried to do when an Alberta town decided that they did not want their town resources spent promoting LGBTQ talent, and a stand that I had to take with the film community here in Edmonton over that. And it was something that was pretty much I won't say it was forced on me, but again, that's a topic that I will discuss with Rusin at the end of the show. There was a little bit of a personality situation going on there, and I was quite happy to stick it to the guy who was doing it on the other end. This isn't about LGBTQ stuff, although strangely enough, Brittany Griner managed to get her wife pregnant, apparently. That is going to be a topic for 371, I'm thinking. We won't go there right now, though. What I have been noticing, well, first of all, there was the Women's Professional Hockey League, and it was sort of like, yeah, great, okay, if a woman wants to be a hockey player or a basketball player or a professional soccer player or whatever, having a professional league where you get to compete against other people at your skill level is actually a very good idea. As long as they're women, got to point that out, as long as they're women. And the whole situation is that, and I mean, I'm actually glad because, like, while I have watched a couple of professional women's hockey games, and you know what, like, the competitive spirit and the drive is there, but the speed and the athleticism is almost the same, but the speed and the male intensity is just not. Like, there's just a factor missing from a women's event, which is why women's sports never do as well. Here's what is going on, though, is, well, first of all, not in the not with the WPHL at this point, but the NBA. The WNBA players are demanding equal pay to what the male players are getting, even though WNBA has not turned a profit at any point in its existence. Even though most of their games are attended by tens of people, what ended up happening is that this particular year, hold on a second.
Maybe hundreds. Maybe even, they might even break 1,000 people.
Yeah, what ended up happening this year, though, is that there is, I can't remember her name specifically. Maybe Rusin can go look her up, but she plays for the University of Iowa. She is what you would call a generational talent. She is in the same category as Connor Bedard. I can't remember that guy who got drafted by San Antonio a few years ago. Is in the same category as LeBron James, Sidney Crosby, Eric Lindros, Magic Johnson. Oh, no, not Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant. Like, basically, or Shaquille O'Neal. She is that type of a player at the college level. And because she is that type, and she's like, yeah, basically she is the female, she's dominant. She's like Martina Navratilova, or some of the other, or say that female MMA fighter who was just dominating for a while in MMA. I can't remember her name. But yeah, she's one of those. She's at that level. And because she is at that level, there's been more interest in women's basketball at the NCAA level. And what has been going on is that you've been literally getting people, and this is no word of a lie, trying, and what they're basically doing is that they've been going online and saying, oh, well, the WNBA is going to become more popular than the NBA, and the NCAA women's is more popular. What their basis on this was the fact that because there is an actual generational talent playing at the NCAA women's finals, and they're able to charge more per seat than the NCAA Final Four was. Therefore, and because they were able to do it, they were actually able to make almost as much money as the NCAA Final Four. Therefore, the NCAA women can sell out, can compete against the men. Therefore, at the professional level, they can do it too. So what they're attempting to do is, on the back of this one particular woman, they're attempting to twist around what she's doing to try to line their pockets. And what they've been, and this is not just happening with the WNBA. I've also seen a push like this happening with hockey. Obviously, women's football and baseball is obviously not as far along. And they're also doing this to a limited extent with women's soccer, is that I've noticed that they're attempting to put more and more and more women's content on air, even though the ratings aren't there for it. The ratings are there for this particular college player from Iowa, again, because she's a rare one-of-a-kind talent. But I mean, they're attempting to take it and twist it around, and they're trying to make the claim. It's like, oh, well, you make this claim that, women's sports don't sell out like men. Well, how do you explain this? Well, this sporting event made as much money as the NCAA Final Fours. Well, that's probably because you charged double the price on the ticket admission to get to that level. Oh, by the way, you also played in a smaller stadium, and So what they're trying to do is they pushed it. They're basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to wokeify sports. We're talking about wokesters here. They're parasites. They won't listen to reason, and what they're doing is via women's sports. They appear to be trying to consume as much money in the professional sports market as humanly possible, and trying to make claims about stuff based on the flimsiest of evidence. And again, we all know that Disney owns ESPN, and we all know who owns Disney. I'd be kind of curious to find out who owns Sports Desk and TSN, though, in Canada. But I mean, if you go to ESPN,
I'll look it up.
When it's your
I'll
turn,
look it up.
You can say what you want to say, even cover it. It's like they're really, really, really trying very hard to put forward some type of because they're not getting the numbers, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to hype up the numbers to try to get people to like it. And this kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that was going on with the film industry, where these shows would have big, powerful girl bosses, and they would demand that you like the content, and the content ended up being mediocre. I mean, every once in a while, one of these woke productions got through. Handmaid's Tale is doing okay. Barbie was the highest selling movie list. So there's been a few that every once in a while one breaks through. But, they're moving into professional sports, and, nobody ever accuses sports networks or jocks of being big-brained. But the acronym, and this also applies to the LGBTQ stuff and the stuff that they did in terms of their stand when it came to BLM, the sports net industry is going to get hit with get woke, go broke at some point. They're very early on in the cycle of it, but that's exactly what's going to happen, because it's like, at first it was the U.S. soccer team demanding equal pay, and now you're trying to get, in particular with the WNBA, they keep making these ridiculous claims that they should be making as much money as the men, but they don't sell out the way the men do. So they found that they got this one talent, and they manipulated the numbers to make it look like they were just as big as the NCAA men's event, and then pushed that lie as hard as they could. And again, right, all you got to do is look at the stadium they held it in and look at the Nielsen numbers, and you can see that it's a paper fucking tiger. And they're going to go, and sports, if they capitulate, they're going to go the same way as the movie industry. And on top of all that, what's going to happen when the manosphere starts to get really huge? And that is something we're going to be covering later on in the show. So, Rearson, hopefully you got your data ready, because I'm turning it over to you.
Okay. So your question about TSN, it's 70% owned by CTV, which is Bell Media, and the usual suspects are not the major shareholders of BCE Inc. DWS, never heard of it. 1832 Assessment, a Canadian company, no idea. Fidelity Investment Canada, number 8. La Caisse Depot du Quebec is number 7. Scotiabank is number 6.
Poutine Broadcasting Corporation.
Sorry. Well, Vanguard is actually number 5.
Oh, interesting.
But they only have 1.6%. But I mean, still, they're there. National Bank Financial, CIBC, BMO Bank USA, and then RBC.
Okay,
And RBC
CIBC. Okay, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So RBC is the largest shareholder of BCE, and that's only at 5.764%. So it's a lot of small divisions. So there's not one specific one. So that's 70% of TSN's ownership. The other 30% is ESPN,
which is owned by Disney, which is owned
which
by
has BlackRock and State Street and everything else. So actually, fuck it. I'm going to see who owns Rogers. Tit for tat. I'll look into that afterwards. It's going to require a little bit more work. At the end of the day, I mean, this is nothing but a bunch of women who cannot compete at the level where it's profitable. They are at best a sideshow. Like, this would be the only way that this could really work if they want to be getting paid what men get paid, is that they have to play their game before the NBA has theirs. So this would be the opening act of a concert. And I think that they should get paid based on the amount of people that are actually sitting recorded in attendance out of the whole thing versus the stadium selling out when the guys are on stage. And it's really not terribly surprising that they're pinning their arguments on one woman being what she is. I'll assume that she's biologically female.
She is female.
By biologically female? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
She looks female. She's not, like, she's not supermodel gorgeous or anything like that, but I mean, it's like, yeah, she's athletic and she's in shape, and she gives off the photos I've seen of her said that's just that she's a woman. So yeah, she is a woman.
Okay. So all of that being said and done, there's no women's sports unless it's tennis or maybe golf, and only then because I'm just going to be a pervy old man. Nice legs on her. Ooh, that looks nice. And did you see her say that? No, not really, because I was trying to see just watching that butt of her sashay around as she's doing what she's doing. I don't fucking care. Like, I really do not give a flying fuck for women's sports. That's not to say that they're not competitive. They are. But women are sneaky fucking creatures. They're not. When men have a problem with men, it tends to get physical. There will be the posturing, there'll be the blowing up of the chests and whatever else, and whoever backs down, that's it. That's it, you little bitch. You fucking lost. Go ahead and run away. That sort of thing. That's what it is with males. That's what society expects with men. Whether they're going to acknowledge that or not is another matter. That's how it goes. That's what's happened. That's how it's been in the past, and that's how it will continue to be until the male brain changes dramatically in terms of biochemistry. That's how it is. That's what testosterone does. Now, that female that seems to have an overabundant level of aggressiveness to her, where she is basically a guy with the fun parts, in theory. Okay, great. But that's what people want to see. They don't want to see women that are potentially just ready to lose their fucking mind because they broke a fucking nail. And folks, I make no apologies by saying that, but that's basically what we expect women in sports to be. It was like, oh my God, I broke a nail. You know, and she's going to lose her fucking shit. That's not to say that I don't think that women should not be competing in sports. They're more than welcome to do it. But it's warfare on a very small field with a group of people that you have to rely on to be able to do their job. And you have to rely on them to do their job very well, incredibly well. And only the best get put into that space. No. I was growing up, the only sport that I played was soccer. Did it for 2 seasons. I had my fun. That was it. I did bowling. Yeah, it was fun. Did 2 seasons. That was it. I lost interest, and I wasn't any different when I was growing up to when you met me in Banff. Skinny, frail looking, and no endurance. So it's never been my thing. Now, for these thieves, because that's what these women are, with what they're demanding, they're a bunch of thieves that feel entitled to a bigger share of the pot. Why? Just because I got a pussy. That's it. That's it. I mean, I've watched Bill Burr rip the WNBA a new, much-needed asshole. And he's not wrong when he basically has said they don't fill the stadiums. And because you don't fill the stadiums, you're not making nearly as much money. And they're not entitled to this. The NBA has been subsidizing the WNBA for what, 25 fucking years, 50 years, however long it's been around. And any person that is going to be supporting all of this, besides Megan Rapinoe and that fucking Brittany, whatever the fuck her name is, that tall Amazon dyke. Do you know what city?
Griner.
Reiner?
She
Yeah.
plays for Phoenix.
Reiner, whatever. Okay, great. What's the name of the team? Without looking it up.
I don't know what the name of the team is. I know it's Phoenix.
Exactly. You might be able to name the city that they play out of, but if you can't name the team, that alone nullifies your whole fucking argument that I'm entitled because. No, you're not. No, you are not entitled. You're not entitled to anything. And I know that you're not going to give me any headaches or crap over this because of my point. But you can't tell me that I'm not wrong if you don't know the name of, you might know the cities that they play in, but if you don't know the teams, fine. Do you know any of the players? No? Well, even more of a reason. Like if I'm going to start splitting hairs, I'll start with the city, then I'll go to the team. Now, I don't follow hockey. I will probably forget enough of the teams as to what cities they're in. I might even forget what the names of them are, but it's something that I grew up with. And I don't follow, but I'm familiar enough that it's like, yep, yes, I forgot about that city and I forgot about that team, the Phoenix Coyotes or the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Dallas Stars, the Washington Capitals. The LA Kings are still around. The Seattle Kraken, I believe.
Yeah, it's the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Kraken. Release the Kraken.
I have a special set of skills. I'm going to release the Kraken. Anyway, these are the logical arguments that I would be very happy to throw at anybody that's in support of, well, the women need to get paid more. All right, there, Einstein, without going to Google, without doing a Google search or an internet search, just to spread that out. So that way, it's like, well, I didn't use Google. I used was like, okay, without searching the internet, name for me all of the women's WNBA team names and or cities. I can pretty much guarantee you, no one's going to be able to do it. And I think that even the players themselves might be a little bit hard pressed to even answer that question. So don't have my sympathy on that one. You don't have my support. I wish you well, because you're going to fucking need it. But don't know, don't care. And I certainly do not give a flying fuck. And I have less than a shit to give. So you were going to say something, my friend.
No, I can't. I forgot what I was going to say. The whole situation is, you're right. I mean, it's like, I don't even know how many teams there are in WNBA. I don't care, right? Like when they when they comment on women's sports on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you get the usual crowd of wokesters coming in, screaming like banshees, making all of these noises, but they do anything. But when you actually start getting in, this is something that I'm noticing. I've noticed it not for years, but it's something I've noticed with SJWs. They will talk about you. They will talk about what you said. They will talk about your opinions. They will talk about your life. They will do anything but actually address the facts. I am seeing this I kind of tried to get into it a little bit with Jaffe yesterday when I was doing the show with him, on Friday. And, when they come after the manosphere, they talk about the people and what they said, or what Pearlie said, or what Pearl tweeted, or what Fresh and Fit is doing, in their relationships. They will do anything. When you try to talk to them about issues, they will try to switch it back to them and their issues, and it's like, no. It's not about you. This is about men. This isn't about you and your fucking issues, right? Like they will, So it's like, yeah, and they're doing this exact same thing. The only problem is one, this technique is getting really tiresome. People are finding out about it, and each time they try to parasitically attach themselves to a different cultural outlet to do this, it becomes less and less effective because there's an overlap. Like, you get right into people like me. I'm a not a hardcore sports fan, but I'm a sports fan. I'm a gamer. I'm a movie guy, right? Like, there's an overlap there, and they hit the people that are in overlap, and those overlap and go, well, no, this is what they're doing. This is how you respond to it. So it becomes less effective. And what's going to have to happen in the sports networks, and it will probably degrade a lot faster with sports than it will with the movies, is, and I think it'll happen with the NBA first, is that people will just stop going. They'll stop attending. They'll stop, because it's sort of like, I want to see the guys play. I don't want to see the women play. And no, you're not going to yell and scream at me and try to shame me into liking something that I don't like. Ladies, I don't care I don't give a shit if you like me saying this or not. Women's sports are not as entertaining. Okay? Tennis is pretty even. Like, Tennis is interesting. Golf has a bit of a strategy to it. I don't mind watching that. There are some women's sports that I don't mind looking at from time to time. Hold on a second. But, if you want to get into, trying to demand that you get paid the same amount of money as your male counterparts just because you're a woman, and to do so is misogyny, even though the numbers and the ratings clearly don't back you up. I mean, I can virtually guarantee you the women's Final Four next year won't be nearly as interesting, because the thing about having generational talents is that they're generational, as in they don't come around very often, right? For instance, it's exceedingly rare. Like right now, you've got Crosby, you got Crosby, McDavid, and Connor Bedard, and Nathan McKinnon, although he was a number one, but he was not considered a generational talent when he was drafted, has managed to work his way into that group. They're all Canadians, by the way. But I mean, it's like generally those are four guys. All right, none of those do not make a team, and you're not likely to get another generational talent like that for a decade or two, sometimes, depending on how many people play the sport. So, yeah, the fact that you're getting some good ratings now because you have an exciting player playing for Iowa is one thing. But is it repeatable? Like, are you going to be able to pull off this stunt next year for the women's Final Four? Right? Are you going to be able to push are you going to be able to twist things, basically? And we're all familiar with it. Hi, V, by the way. Are you going to be able to and this is something that they do as well. They will just simply say, like, for instance, when it comes to the manosphere, they will just simply say something about the manosphere. Or you're seeing this also with Sweet Baby. They will just say something about the anti-Sweet Baby people, and the strategy is to just say it and have the mainstream media cover their backs, which doesn't work nearly as effectively anymore. And just hope that nobody actually does something like, say, what I've done a couple of times on Instagram. When these people say it, it's sort of like, oh, okay, you want to go there? Let's talk about the actual Nielsen ratings. Let's talk about the actual attendance, not the actual money you brought in because you played in a stadium that's half the size of the one that the men's Final Four paid in, but you charged almost double the price for tickets to make it look like you were bringing in the same amount of money. People get smart to those tricks. And with that, I'm done. You're jumping in right at the end of topic number 3, so we'll just jump right into topic number 4. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Well, you guys know me as V. Sage V, V Cypher, Vindictive Bastard. I have many names. Probably more names than the devil. But, hey, I'm here.
Welcome aboard, V. You're just in time for the Dexter Reed part of the show. I take it you've heard about some of the stuff that happened to Dexter Reed?
Well, not so much, but I'm still happy to discuss it.
All right. So what we at the start of the year, and I believe V was actually on the show when I said this, or maybe you don't remember. I said at the start of the year what was going to happen is that at some point the Democrats and the mainstream media were going to attempt to manufacture another George Floyd incident.
Unlock the doors now! Open the door now! Open the door now! Open the door now! 6-4 David, shots fired! Shots fired! Hey! Hey! Shots fired! Ferdinand Avers! 10-1! 10-1! Hey! Fucking A! Hey, St. Louis, good! Shots fired! Hey, shots fired! Pick it up!
So I just saw this new case about these cops killed this man in Chicago by the name of Dexter Reed. And you know, here we go again. We about to try to start the whole police brutality thing. Not saying police brutality do not exist. It does. But at the same time, everything should be looked at as a case by case issue. Because I'm one of those dudes that don't believe that all that stuff that happened behind George Floyd was justified at all. George Floyd was a blatant criminal. He was he should not have been built effigies after him after what happened to him. He did that to himself. They actually had him in the cop car and he climbed out. So I had no sympathy for what happened to George Floyd. And what happened to this young man, Dexter Reed, I don't have no sympathy for him neither. It's because I don't care what they pulled you over for. If you comply, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna go along your happy merry way, or you're just gonna go to jail, do your time, and go home. But you're gonna have your life intact. And firing off on the police is not a good idea. Like that has never been a good idea. No matter what color you are, that has never been a good idea. And I know people are gonna see this and be like, oh, they did this because it was excessive and blah, 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 blah. We should never put ourselves in position for them to be excessive. Majority of the time. Not all the time, because sometimes they do take their job too serious, but a lot of the times we put ourselves in position to allow them to be excessive. Like, I have an X on my back. I've been to prison for aggravated robbery. So anytime a police officer, and I've been pulled over quite a few times, and anytime a police officer pull up my name, they see that I've been to prison for a violent crime. I'm still alive today. I've even been let off with a warning. And I have lived in nice areas where the black population was maybe 4%. Nothing. I have been pulled over in Mississippi. In Mississippi, white cop pulled me over, looked at my ID, ran my name while I was on parole. Ran my name, told me to get out the car, got out the car, ran my name, got out his car after running my name, gave me my ID, and told me to drive safe. And I headed to Atlanta. All you got to do is comply, man. All you got to do is comply. And 9 times out of 10, none of this bullcrap we be saying will happen. I'm not even gonna go as far as to say, like, we know what this for. They a lot of the times they pull this shit for political reasons. Elections coming up, so now they want to start the whole black versus blue shit. Please, black people, don't get caught up in that shit. Please do not. The man shot at the police first. That's it, that's all. He gave his life away. That's it, that's all. Whether they shot 100 times, doesn't matter. You allowed yourself to get shot at. You gave them reason. You gave them grounds to do what they did. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to, the mentality and the mind frame of what's going on in our community, dog, is washed. Is washed, dude. All you have to do is comply. That's all you have to, don't come at them like, oh, what you pull me over for? Oh, you blah, blah, blah. Fuck that shit. You pull me over. Here you go, sir. My license. Here you go, sir. My registration. Blah, blah, blah. And if you did, and if they pulled you over, rightfully, don't argue. Just take your damn ticket and go on your way. And if you feel like you were pulled over unjustly, still comply, get their number, take your ticket or whatever the hell, and go on about your way and handle it accordingly. Get you a lawyer. We gotta stop, because that victim mindset will get you killed. That shit will get you killed. Handle it accordingly. That's it, that's all. If you getting profiled, handle it accordingly. Don't shoot at the fucking police. Like, that is fucking ridiculous. Don't try to evade arrest. Don't resist. Just, hey, do your thing. That's it, that's all, man. So yeah, I feel no ways. You gave grounds for them to do what they did. Point blank, period.
All right, so if you don't know this lady right here is the mother of the son that was shot dead by the officers. Why? Because he's a fucking criminal, that's why. I'm not going to dig too much deep on what happened. You can go and see the body cam footage yourself. What I am going to say is, lady, go and take your ass back home. Leave black peoples alone. We ain't on your side on this. I think I speak for damn near all black people when I say you ain't going to swindle us again. And when I say you, I mean the Democratic Party and the BLM. BLM is right by our side. Instigating shit. Trying to get that popularity. Y'all know what time it is. It's election year. If anybody should be crying, you should be crying for yourself for raising a fucking criminal. But that's the problem with these Gen Zs. They feel entitled. I guarantee that boy didn't have his father. The reality is 93% of criminals in this country is raised by single mothers. No discipline. If anything, blame your fucking self. You want us to care about you and we all can barely afford to pay fucking rent? Girl, first off, who the fuck told you to come out the house at 50 years old with red goddamn hair? A black reject mermaid. Over there crying and falling out and shit like you don't got no damn sense. You are not gonna Jussie Smollett us. There's nothing on this God green earth that'll justify that boy shooting them officers.
So I just saw this new case about these cops killed this man in Chicago by the name of Dexter Reed. And here we go again. We about to try to start the whole police brutality thing. Not saying police brutality do not exist. It does. But at the same time, everything should be looked at as a case by case issue, because I'm one of those dudes that don't believe that all that stuff that happened behind George Floyd was justified at all. George Floyd was a blatant criminal. He was he should not have been built effigies after him, after what happened to him. He did that to himself. They actually had him in the cop car and he climbed out. So I had no sympathy for what happened to George Floyd. And what happened to this young man, Dexter Reed, I don't have no sympathy for him neither. It's because I don't care what they pulled you over for. If you comply, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna go along your happy merry way, or you're just gonna go to jail, do your time, and go home. But you're gonna have your life intact. And firing off on the police is not a good idea. Like that has never been a good idea. No matter what color you are, that has never been a good idea. And I know people going to see this and be like, oh, they did this because they was excessive and blah, 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 blah. We should never put ourselves in position for them to be excessive. Majority of the time. Not all the time, because sometimes they do take their job too serious. But a lot of the times, we put ourselves in position to allow them to be excessive. Like, I have an X on my back. I've been to prison for aggravated robbery. So anytime a police officer, and I've been pulled over quite a few times, and anytime a police officer pull up my name, they see that I've been to prison for a violent crime. I'm still alive today. I've even been let off with a warning. And I have lived in nice areas where the black population was maybe 4%. Nothing. I have been pulled over in Mississippi. In Mississippi, white cop pulled me over, looked at my ID, ran my name while I was on parole. Ran my name, told me to get out the car, got out the car, ran my name, got out his car after running my name, gave me my ID, and told me to drive safe. And I headed to Atlanta. All you gotta do is comply, man. All you gotta do is comply. And 9 times out of 10, none of this bullcrap we be saying will happen. I'm not even gonna go as far as to say, like, we know what this for. This is they a lot of the times they pull this shit for political reasons. Elections coming up, so now they want to start the whole black versus blue shit. Please, black people, don't get caught up in that shit. Please do not. The man shot at the police first. That's it, that's all. He gave his life away. That's it, that's all. Whether they shot 100 times, doesn't matter. You allowed yourself to get shot at, but you gave them reason. You gave them grounds to do what they did. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to, the mentality and the mind frame of what's going on in our community, dog, is washed. Is washed, dude. All you have to do is comply. That's all you have to, don't come at them like, oh, what you pull me over for? Oh, you blah, blah, blah. Fuck that shit. You pull me up. Here you go, sir. My license. Here you go, sir. My registration. Blah, blah, blah. And if you did, and if they pulled you over, rightfully, don't argue. Just take your damn ticket and go on your way. And if you feel like you were pulled over unjustly, still comply, get their number, take your ticket or whatever the hell, and go on about your way and handle it accordingly. Get you a lawyer. We gotta stop, because that victim mindset will get you killed. That shit will get you killed. Handle it accordingly. That's it, that's all. If you getting profiled, handle it accordingly. Don't shoot at the fucking police. Like, that is fucking ridiculous. Don't try to evade arrest. Don't resist. Just, hey, do your thing. That's it, that's all, man. So yeah, I feel no ways. You gave grounds for them to do what they did. Point blank, period.
Now we're getting at that time here. We're getting into mid-April, May, and they took as you remember back in 2020, their first attempt didn't work either, because I don't know, Ahmaud Arbery just didn't catch on as much as they would have liked it to, but George Floyd did. What ended up happening here, and it was again all caught, and it wasn't just caught on police police cameras. It was, and this happened in Chicago, by the way. It wasn't caught on, but people standing by with cameras on their phones. And what ended up happening is, your typical that joke, because it happens to Native guys in Canada, thing about fucking the cops just stopping because you look Native. Same sort of thing happens in the U.S., right? They committed, I will tell you right now that the natives up here committed disproportionate amount of the crime. That also happens to be in the States. Now, the issues behind that, that's not what we're here to discuss, but he got pulled over. The moment he got pulled over, he became uncooperative. And he became uncooperative to the point where the police started, and I know this because I've never been in law enforcement per se. I do know that if somebody is being uncooperative and evasive and not basically complying and putting their hand and going spread eagle on the ground or whatever, when the cops start asking you to comply and you're like hiding your hands and not showing anything, and like the cops are going to pull their guns, which is exactly what happened. This guy, instead of realizing that the cops had pulled their guns, he pulled his gun and shot first. He shot one officer who survived, but his car was, so his truck, sorry, I believe might have been a truck or a car. His truck was surrounded by probably about a dozen cops, and he got shot 95 times and died at location. No big surprise. The video clearly shows him pulling out a gun, being evasive, not cooperating, hiding his hands, and then he pulls out the gun and he shoots an officer, and then the officers respond back. Now, during the Ronald Blake situation in Kenosha, and I got into a serious argument with somebody, because I know this, right? The cops are not supposed to be heroes, right? Yeah, they're given training on how to handle armed perpetrators. Yes, they are wearing bulletproof and or stab-proof vests. The only thing is, though, is that you can either have a bulletproof or a stab-proof vest. You're not usually, one is effective against knives, the other one is effective against guns, but the ones that are effective against both are expensive as hell. Most cop departments don't have both. What happened with the Ronald Blake situation is that he was a known sex offender, and he was having a domestic situation with his ex, and he had taken the kid and had put it in the back seat of the car, and they had attempted, and he was going to attempt to drive away. And it's like, the cops weren't going to allow a known sex offender with a kid that he took forcibly from the mother. And you will notice that the mother has never really been asked about what happened with the Ronald Blake situation, and refused to comply after the police told him to drop the knife. And when he attempted to get into the car, which, by the way, was not going to happen, the police started shooting him, because you're not going to allow a known sex offender, regardless of race, to drive away in a car with a kid in the back. And you're not supposed to be a hero, and you're not supposed to try and tackle and fight hand to hand with an armed assailant. You're supposed to try to take them down at a distance. You only get into hand to hand as a last resort. Like, the cops are not supposed to be heroes, although some of them are adrenaline junkies and try to be. So yeah, he got shot 95 times. Died on location. Family made a bunch of claims that he was a good boy and everything, and so on and so forth. Bottom line is that he did pull his gun and shot first. Okay, yeah, there were guns pointing at him because he was hiding his hands while this was going on. Now, what ended up happening afterwards is that the mainstream media took the footage of the event and doctored it, and they ran stories that made it look like the cops had just decided to shoot this guy randomly, and they tried to run it on Twitter, and it got immediately community noted. Like, immediately community noted, which prevented its spread. However, the mainstream media was pushing and has been pushing this story for a few days. It's not getting any traction, but I am going to tell, I said this at the start of the year, and it is going to happen. They are going to try to reignite and they're going to try to start another George Floyd event at some point. And, you know, it might not be the beauty that they had in 2020, where you had Derek Chauvin pinning George Floyd to the ground, screaming that he can't breathe. But I mean, they are going to try again. And like I said, this was predicted. This was I made a prediction this was going to happen, and this is their first attempt, and they're going to make another one. This Dexter Reed pulled out his gun and shot first. And yes, the police did have guns trained on him. That was because he wasn't complying, and he definitely wasn't showing his hands. And if you're a law enforcement, if somebody is being evasive like that, yeah, they're going to pull their guns on you. And it's not going to matter whether you're white, black, yellow, or space alien and Superman gimp suits, Mearson. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so I was doing some edits right now for my next documentary, and a section of it focuses on police misconduct, police brutality, negligence, etc., etc. Now, what you're describing sounds
there are some.
because...
I will point out there are some very bad cops out there. There's also a lot of good ones, but continue.
Yeah, that goes. That really goes without saying. But so this sounds. What you're describing to me sounds very familiar. So was this guy in a park on foot, walking his dog? Or, no, you said he was in a car.
No, he was in a car. He was in a car. He was hiding his hands, and he was not being cooperative, and he wasn't complying with what the officers were saying, and he wasn't showing his hands from what I saw, and he just pulled the gun out and started shooting. Now, the stuff that happened before I didn't see, so there may have been some stuff that happened before that I didn't see, but from what I saw, he clearly pulled out his gun and shot that officer first before they started firing back.
Okay, well, the story I was going over, cops had a warrant for this guy. Instead of going to his house, decided to follow him to the park, where the shootout started happening. Bullets were flying, children were crying, and the state police could have handled the situation a lot better.
Oh,
I do believe
you won't get any argument from me about that.
Yeah, and so you start finding these stories, and then it cascades. Cops coming to a building, guns blazing, kids dying. Cops going to department stores, firing, killing little girls who are in dressing rooms. Have nothing to do with anything. And so you got bad people and you have guns. So you put those, bad people on both sides. So you put guns in the mix. Well, of course, you can have shootouts. I do believe there's such a thing as defending yourself, especially against dirty cops, because if they have it in their mind to kill you, they're going to kill you.
Oh, absolutely. There have been a lot of historical cases of the cops just deciding that they were going to accidentally kill somebody. Like that's
Right.
not new in New Orleans. That's like, there's certain cases in New Orleans where if you commit something, it's like you're going to die in custody. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a certain degree of protection. There have been some states actually debating this, whether it's okay to defend yourself with a weapon against police officers. So some of these courts said, it's definitely, you should be able to defend your life against anybody. And I think that's definitely the case. So this guy may have been uncooperative, possibly even belligerent. But if he fires first, then it's all bets off. No matter how bad of a person you are, you do not want to give these cops a reason. They wake up every day itching just to take somebody out.
Well, they're adrenaline junkies. They're adrenaline junkies. That's like some of them. That's why they're cops. They live for really intense moments like that.
And what people don't understand is a lot of these cops, they're not just adrenaline junkies. They're junkies, period. A lot of these cops are roided up. Okay? Taking testosterone shots. You know, you can't enter in a conversation or investigation being juiced up. It's just the wrong. It's just the wrong way to engage people in a society. As a figure of authority, as an administrator of law, you know, you got to approach every situation. Like you're the mailman. You have some information you need to get across. You need to get some information from another individual, and then you judge what goes on. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's been violent. I do believe that police should have non-lethal ranged weapons. They do have the knockout pellets. They do have trank darts. And I know there's some of these things that can kill you if you get too much of it, or if it just gets you in the right way. But I think that would be 99% less likely to be killed in that manner than to just shooting regular bullets at somebody. I mean, when you're an arbiter of the law, it's your job to enforce and get compliance. Death should not be a part of the interaction. Okay, that person needs to live so he can see a courtroom, so society can work out justice. But right now, we got street judges, right? Not just street judges. They're the jury and executioners now. It's like dystopian mega city.
Judge Dredd
stuff.
Yeah.
It's so technology is at a level where there are many things that can incapacitate somebody without any risk of loss of life. I don't care how violent the criminal is. I don't care if he's armed to the teeth with rocket launchers. I don't care. That person is committing or is suspected of committing some sort of infraction, and he needs to be processed to be in the court of law. So, I don't know. They need SWAT helicopters, drop CS gas. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that can be done. And, well, the government just doesn't want to do it. Because behind closed doors, yeah, they're so happy for that officer who got rid of a member of the dregs of society. That's one case I won't have to see in court today. But people need to. They've got to understand that shouldn't be the government making these decisions. It should be the communities. These communities should be getting riled up, going to their city councils, town halls, and enforcing policies to be made. Shootout. Innocent people get hurt in shootouts. These cops can't aim worth a damn. Don't care how many times they go to the range. They're juiced up and drunk half the time they do that. And then you just got some flat out idiots. So I don't trust it. I just a cop with a gun, period. At least have some sort of authorization. There needs to be some authorization before they can fire around. If somebody's ringing out at them, they need to run, hide, duck, and cover. They should have a drone watching the situation, and they should get a little light on their gun that unlocks something, and they can fire back. We need regulation. And it's ridiculous. I believe we would have more respectful cops if we just actually make them accountable, especially, and not just for damages or imprisonment time or just, wrongful imprisonment. We got that in fear of my life crap out of the window, because the second the situation turns uncomfortable, they get trigger happy. De-escalation by all means necessary, even at the risk of their lives, because that's why they have the badge in the first place. They don't need to be scared for their lives. They need to jump in and take care of business. Because if the cop's scared for his life, what the hell do I need him for? I can go handle the situation. What do I need this coward for? Or what do I need this bloodthirsty steroid junkie for? So after he gets done with that, he's got to look at me ready for round two. I don't want that. I don't know. It's just ridiculous hearing about a shootout on both sides, criminal and law enforcement. Things can be done differently. And with that, I'll pass it on to you, Gerson.
Once again, I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one. Envy, I'm going to piss you off. And as a friend to a friend, just if it was a white guy that got shot 95 times for the same whole fucking thing, no one would bat a fucking eyelash. Media doesn't care because they're out for the race baiting. Now, I can't attest to the shit you've gone through with law enforcement, and for what's happened, I am sorry. Not that it's going to make any difference, but I am sorry. Do I trust the police? No, but I don't trust the police more for it being for the incident that happened up here in Calgary, where a 7-year-old autistic boy was molested by a principal of a Catholic school. Kid ended up getting herpes around his butthole. The police moved in really damn fast when the parents started to raise a stink. So you can have your race-based, I hate using the word, but I'll just go with that, with your experience to color your viewpoints. You're not the first, you won't be the last. That's my level of distrust. Now, looking into this a little bit, I came across from Real Clear Politics Jesse Waters from Fox News, and I consider him to be one of the more reliable people from that controlled opposition organization, brings up a valid point. What major event is supposed to happen in the U.S. this year in November? It'd be the election. Democrats has been proven more often than not, in my honest opinion, as being great for race baiting, and you probably get the rhinos to go along with it because things are so bad in the blue cities and the blue states that, shall we say, the black vote is moving to the way that things seem to be going, is that this is moving towards Trump, and they can't stand the idea that they're going to lose their guaranteed voter base. So if this doesn't catch, let's wait for the next incident to be blown out of proportion. Now, I will say this about law enforcement. I don't have the mentality for it. I am too sensitive. I'm too empathic of an individual that line of work would destroy me emotionally. I would probably have a breakdown, and I would not be the least bit surprised for me to predict my own death on that one. I would probably end up blowing my head off at some point. It's quite likely I might take out my family before I do that, but I'm aware of what does not work for me. And that's a line of work that I can only imagine as to how difficult it is to see for you to be thrown into and dealing with typically the dregs of society that's in need of help, and you can't do very much because it's not your job. When it comes to incidents that are coming up in the news, there are two things that I've noticed. The only time that someone's going to be talked about as to what their skin color is if it's going to be white on black violence, or if it's just a white guy for whatever reason or another has to be singled out. Again, we were on Jaffe's show on Friday. I brought up a sex offender, a gentleman that basically ended up raping underage girls, or at least was molesting them. May not have penetrated them, but where was he from? He was from the Middle East, and until they actually have to say anything about it, they won't talk about the person, don't talk about that male, typically speaking. If they're from a designated protected group, unofficially speaking, because of the George Soroses and the like, doing everything they can to mess up first world countries, to incur the societal rot, because to make an egg, you have to break some eggs, as Soros has basically said. So I would apologize for not being terribly opinionated on it, but again, my viewpoint being is to look at what's going on, what's the bigger picture. So I'm not going to get distracted on this one because something has been picked and edited. Something's been cherry-picked. And the kit, shall we say, has been taken out of the cherry, but you're being sold that the cherry is the whole thing, pit and all. So things are missing. And again, at the end of the day, when it comes to the news, they're doing, my opinion is they're doing the best they can to make this as difficult for everybody as possible and to rile up racial tensions. Why he would do what he did, I don't know. I don't know anything about Dexter, and I'm not inclined to. I'm inclined to dismiss both sides of the story because both sides are lying to some degree or another. Human nature being what it is, trying to protect ourselves and whatever else, I get it. But I don't care. I really, honestly, I don't care. I've got my immediate employment and financial situation to worry about. I'm hoping, again, that the silver market isn't going to explode too much, that I can still get in with a decent amount to protect my limited wealth. I want to jump into the crypto market very soon as well too, make more moves with all of that, but I have to wait. And it's things like that that are preoccupying my thoughts, not this goat rodeo, for lack of a better way to say it. This event for a goat rodeo, because there are people that have done things that they shouldn't be doing. They're about to get caught, and they should be flushed out. So to throw, shall we say, the racial bread and circus at the public to try to distract them from the financial stresses that they're currently experiencing because society around them is falling apart, and the people that are trying to do this are the ones that are creating the problems. I don't think I need to say any more than that. So, gentlemen, I've got nothing more to say. So, Naroki, if you want to unmute yourself, let's move on to the next one. Unless anybody else has anything to add to that.
Oh, by the way, it's not R-E-I-D, it's R-E-E-D. Dexter Reed. Let me just edit that name. Yeah, there's a fully expect that the politicians are going to try to weaponize this again. You know, I got to point out in 2020, they started out with Ahmaud Arbery, and then they went on to George Floyd. So, yeah, they are going to try and do this again. It happened a little earlier than I was expecting. Again, well, basically what ended up happening is that it got community noted when CNN and MSNBC and all the mainstream media sites started hyping this up. It got immediately community noted on Twitter, which prevented it from spreading. And the fact that it's not taking off just via the mainstream media and by Facebook and Instagram, and let me emphasize this to you, Facebook and Instagram, and to a certain extent YouTube, have been trying to put this up higher on the thing. So they are definitely trying to inflame racial tensions, which is what you kind of expected them, that what they were going to try and do. But anyway, let's get into the next topic, because this next topic, and we were talking about who owns what. This is one that I actually know who owns the Tomb Raider franchise. Who owns the Tomb Raider franchise? Why, that would be Lucasfilm owns the Tomb Raider franchise. Now, Rearson, I don't have to ask you. You already know the answer to this question. But who owns Lucasfilm at the moment?
Oh. Bane of cultural existence, fucking the Walt Disney Corporation.
And
who owns
Disney?
Who owns who owns ABC, who owns ESPN, who owns indirectly has a say in the matter of what happens on TSN, the sports network, which is Canada's ESPN. Who owns Disney? Well, there's the typical trifecta of Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock. You will probably find JP Morgan and
a couple of others. Yeah, there's the usual suspects. Anyway, what I'm saying is that Tomb Raider has a new. It's not a computer game. It was initially thought to be a computer game, and it got spread out initially because of Sweet Baby, and they found out that it was a board game. And you're going to love this, because as we all know, Tomb Raider.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Tomb Raider is I mean, when Angelina Jolie played the two Tomb Raider movies, Angelina Jolie, she is an archaeologist, and they go in and they retrieve items, and obviously she is in shape because her job, based on the movie character, based on the video game character, she's a hot woman with a smoking body who has been parodied in multiple porn scenes over the years, some of which are pretty good, some of which are not, but I digress. But I mean, she is the Tomb Raider, not the Tomb Guardian. So Lucasfilm, which, by the way, does own the Tomb Raider franchise.
No, they don't.
They don't?
They don't. No. No, it's a group called Embracer Group.
I thought it was Disney. Maybe they own the movie rights. Maybe they own the movie rights then. I'm guessing.
That probably would be it. They own like Asmodee, which is I've got one of their products that I'm heavily emotionally invested in, which is the Edge of the Empire Final Fantasy Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars. Dark Horse Media, I believe that would be comics.
Oh, Dark Horse Media is woke as fuck. Sorry, the comics is just, I've been completely undermined. Anyway, so yeah, Disney owns the movie rights, but Disney was not obviously. Thank you for straightening me out on that. Disney was not involved in this. What they did with the new Tomb Raider game is they said, Lara Croft is rejecting her colonialist roots and is going to become the Tomb Guardian. And of course, her new cadre of assistants are all not. Well, actually, no, there is one that's white, but this should come as no surprise. The white guy, from what I saw so far, looks like a fucking soy boy. Right? It's a board game. It's a board. It's not a video game. People thought it was a video game. It's not a movie because I mean, it's a board game. Yeah, that's what I found out. So
that makes sense.
They wokeified the board game, and of course, right, they chose to do this right in the middle of the Sweet Baby controversy. And it is not going down very well because it's like, yeah, you need to stop wokeifying characters. And this is the reason why I thought it was initially Disney, and it is like the movie rights are all. Lucasfilm did release the two Tomb Raider movies, by the way. When I first found out about this, I was like, oh, yeah, here we go again. Kathleen Kennedy impinging herself into another character. To give you an idea of how bad it got potentially with Tomb Raider, at one point, feminists were whining and bitching because Tomb Raider wasn't body positive. And you again, right? Logic just goes right over their heads, and it's sort of like, yeah, okay, if she's going to be climbing walls and shooting it out with people and having to fight men that are larger than her and run around, it's like, yeah, she's not going to be 50 fucking pounds overweight. Like, she is going to be in shape. Like, she's going to be fighting shape. Oh, by the way, the name of that Iowa basketball player is Caitlin Clark. Just so you know. But getting back to the getting back. So yeah. they wokeified, and this is probably not to be unexpected because speculation is that Kathleen Kennedy is going to wokeify Tomb Raider at some point if it comes out. I, for instance, just recently discovered today that they have relaunched Percy Jackson, except, of course, Percy Jackson isn't the main character. It's the girl, even though Percy Jackson is the main character in the book. And you may want to be sitting down for all of this. Percy Jackson is an effeminate soy boy, and the female character is a fucking girl boss and a woman of color. Yeah, I know. We're all shocked, aren't we?
Was she a midget and a carpet muncher? That's handicapped? Just asking.
No.
Just wanted to make sure.
Although, I didn't. Somebody actually did ask that because I saw this at Facebook on Disney Plus, and somebody actually asked that. And of course, you had the usual guys coming going, "Oh, incel." So I got a meme for that. It's this 200, 300-pound woman going, and then I called him incel whenever I see somebody on Facebook typing out incel as a response. I just send them that photo, and that usually shuts them up. But yeah. She has rejected her colonial roots, and she is now the tomb guardian, and it went over like a lead balloon, which is exactly how you figured it was going to go. Woke movie incoming, assuming Disney doesn't absolutely cave in on itself before they get the chance. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V. And with that, I want to turn it over to V.
You're going to have to skip me on this one. I'm having some computer issues.
Okay.
Again.
All right. Yeah.
This will be quick this time, but go ahead.
Okay, Gerson, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was saying about this being a board game and with Nordic games, and particularly with Asmodee specifically, it was originally a French game company. I designed cards. I can't remember what it is, but Asmodee bought Fantasy Flight Games, which is again what Star Wars is. But Star Wars has come. FFG has come out with a new Star Wars game, but it's a board game. So that to me is why that I'm not honestly terribly surprised by this bit of news. Well, the wokesters are going to do what the wokesters are going to do. And I mean, let's be honest. I'm sure while they can't outright make the white male a bum chum, I'm sure if they could somehow they would. And maybe, who knows, maybe the boss bitch has got a strap on waiting, and her male sidekick has been trained ready to drop the pants and take it like a man, as only a man or a boss bitch with a bad attitude towards males who loves her studded, I'm sure, at least strap on. No standards, folks, and no fucks given, because I have no fucks to give. Oh my God. I do remember the backlash that there was about Tomb Raider being a fit female. Okay, why are there no overweight superheroes aside from like the Blob, for example? But that's his special ability, is that he's very difficult to deal with, incredibly difficult. Very, very elastic skin. he can manipulate his center of gravity to push it like far below where he is to make him almost immovable. I mean, those are the exceptions. And I mean, we went over the likes of Safe Space and that ill-fated comic book thought idea. So these are Mary Sue's and even Gary Sue's that are inserting themselves when they have when their physical body type matches their ability to write content, whether it's stories, movies, stories going to movies, or this is game design. They think that because they've got a couple of these blue check marks that they are now qualified to be able to produce something that they believe is going to actually be that's going to sell. But again, and just like we were talking about with women's sports, this is a sad excuse, reality, whatever you want to call it, of people thinking that they know better when in reality they have no clue. They're not based in reality. I don't know what they're on, but I would love to take some of that shit and be in the same la la land world of make believe that they're in, because these things that they want, or these images that they have of themselves, don't work. They don't exist. Not really. So this new direction of Tomb Raider, Guardian, whatever you want to fucking call it. Yeah, sure, go ahead. It's not my budget. It's not my capital expense. Capital project, I guess that's not the right word for it. Capital expense, whatever, to develop something like this. And let's be honest, I think that Sweden's probably one of the more wokeified countries on the planet in terms of corporate activity. I mean, for my favorite Swedish band, Sabaton, it's the only Swedish band that I know of that I listen to actively. The way that they have the advertising, and there's the country community behind festivals and word on the street, you got to go see this band, or this band's playing, or whatever the case may be. They're much more active, because they just have themselves to rely on for their culture. And by and large, they don't export it. But this, fuck. Yeah, I believe the phrase would be good luck. Good luck on that one, because you're going to fucking need it. I don't see this being terribly successful. I'll give it probably about 2 years. And I won't be the least bit surprised if wherever it is on Nordic Games' website, whatever subsidiary, probably, no, I don't think it's Asmodee, actually. I'm going to look it up, but I don't expect that it's going to be around for anything more than about 2 years, then it's going to disappear into the ether, and but they'll try something else again. Who fucking knows? So how much was spent on the rights on this one? No clue. In terms of the Tomb Raider, it was at one point Ubisoft had also released some games with the Tomb Raider franchise. So, and that's a whole different story. So we'll leave that alone. And I got nothing more to say on that one. So we can move on if RV's ready to deal with his issue, or if his issue has been dealt with.
Going once. Going
We can
twice.
hit next topic, guys.
Okay, all right. So let's. All right. So this one is really. Well, I can't say I was overly surprised that this one happened, because we all know how it all started out with with Planet Fitness. Their stock dropped several hundred. I think it was either not billion, but I mean several hundred million, or even a couple of $1 billion worth of stock value. Got dropped out of the company, and then miraculously, just like that, they suddenly got their stock value right back up to where it was. Now, Rearson, I think it was actually literally last week, showed us who was involved in supporting Planet Fitness. To no surprise, we had the big three again. So it became, and it was really obvious from looking at the stock value, that probably BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard pumped money, and maybe even some of the others as well, pumped money into Planet Fitness to make it look like what was going on was just a blip, and that everything was okay. Well, what ended up happening is, and this is happening more and more frequently now, people are starting to look, they're starting to look at who the stock owners are. They're definitely starting to look at that. But one of the other things they're starting to look at is that when they start looking around, they start noticing that Planet Fitness, there was an event in Michigan, and there was I believe there was one in Alabama, where the same sort of thing happened. And it just started rolling, and then their stock value started to go down. But of course, right, this week, there was an event in North Carolina where a man went into a women's dressing room at a Planet Fitness in North Carolina, and he didn't shave. He didn't hide off in a corner and put on women's clothes. He decided to walk around in this women's change room buck naked with his dong out and exposing it to everybody. In fact, deliberately putting it in the face of women. The women came out of the washroom, the change room, called the cops on him. When the cops came to arrest him, he claimed that he was a woman, although his actions were clearly that of indecent exposure and attempted. Well, he was just being a creep and a pervert, and he was pretending to be a woman, right? And of course, it got out like wildfire, and all of the money that the big three put into Planet Fitness was lost, and then some. So Planet Fitness is right back where they were. State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, or whoever put in that money to artificially prop up. Hold on a second. To artificially prop up Planet Fitness, that money is now gone. And the only thing I have to say about that is that, gee, that is too bad for you guys, man. This is what happens when you do stuff like, say, clandestinely supply gay grooming camps, and when you attempt to ram LGBTQ merchandise down our throats, or you try to force us to like women's sports, or you try to do something else, right? Like, all that money they put in there was basically there to counteract the actions of a couple of perverts. And it took the action of one pervert to undo everything they did. And if they had just simply not put this policy in place to begin with, they wouldn't have this problem. The money of whichever one of those three put in to prop up Planet Fitness's stock value, it wouldn't have even been necessary. So this pervert, by the way, is currently facing criminal charges. Yes, he did try to pretend that he was a woman. And yes, he was being a creep. And yes, he was exposing himself to women. And when they tried to arrest him, he claimed that he was a woman to try to get out of the charges. And none of this would have happened if three certain mutual fund companies hadn't decided to put all of their chips on the table in support of fucking perverts. Sorry, my patience is really starting to get stretched out with this crowd. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, come on, guys. Look, how many times have you just wanted to rock out with your cock out and put it in the face of some women?
Please tell me you're not actually asking for an answer.
We all know it's space aliens with you, Rearson, so that's okay.
I have not taken an alien phallus in my mouth that I'm going to admit to. Anyway.
Well, I think it's funny because there are those people, growing up. Yeah, one of these days, such is going to happen to you. Yeah, I think men are getting their day, kind of. Yeah, I want to see how it feels to be a woman. Sure, I'm just gonna do my thing. Yeah. Hey, I'm just one of the girls. You guys don't mind me. Actually, that has worked for me a lot. I am a participant in a lot of my friends' girls' night out. But I'm here in the States. Or just girls' night, period. Pardon pun. So, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. And it's sad all at the same time. It's a spectacle. Okay. Should we be so concerned about it? Yeah, I mean, when it comes to kids, sure, absolutely. Nobody should be flashing themselves or acting illicit or unmodest, I should say. I don't care what people do. As long as they stop messing with the kids. Stop messing with the kids. If there's kids anywhere, don't do your drugs around the kids. Don't do your sexually depraved stuff around the kids. Keep all adult content away from the children. But every time I hear you guys bring up one of your stories, it's like, oh yeah, a kid happened to see this too. It's like, damn. I want to try to be as lefty liberal as I can, but it's almost impossible because these guys go off the rails with this crap they want to do. And I don't know. I wish I could I don't want to divide up the country. Let's keep the states, but let's have a state represent something where people can just live and live that mentality. You want to own a gun and shoot deer and all that stuff and be in a militia? Live in Texas. if you want to cut your penis off and have it surgically stitched to your forehead, okay, live in California. You know, it's I don't I don't know. I mean, this melting pot thing, it cannot work for everything. It cannot. We need some just like we have designated smoking areas. We need some designated libtard zones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's what we need. And each state has its own constitution. That's why that they do, but they're so homogenized. It's hard to find any differences on the surface between anywhere where you live in the country. You'd have to go and look stuff up just to find what's unique about the area around you. Now, we the people who are supposed to be represented, it shouldn't have to be that difficult. I do believe, I mean, it's not gonna, I don't think it would divide us as a country. We're the United States. So Texas shouldn't be going to war with California. So why not have unique areas around the country for the weirdos, for the gun nuts, for the sheeple? Just divvy it up. Everybody should have a safe space, right? If you want to extend it outside of your own home, tend to have to make a club. Go get Clubhouse. If you're going to extend it beyond that, well, damn it, you better have the political clout and the backing of your community. Okay, that's all I want to say on that. Okay, guys, that's just the wrap up for me on that. Go ahead, Urson.
When you're in a choir, all it takes is one person to be singing out of key, and it ruins the whole experience for everybody. Or perhaps this was the case with the British band The Who, when Keith Moon was just too drunk and he had his demons with alcohol and it just ruined him, that they had to replace him. Ruined the chemistry. As Naruki has said, in essence, this is what's happened with Planet Fitness, because they can't, well, with at least one member of the trifecta, BlackRock, State Street, or Vanguard, as the shareholder, and probably, maybe, possibly, sorry, let me rephrase that, with possibly the help of the other investors that seem to be not too far away or not that far hovering around the trifecta with their with the need to make a profit at the expense of common sense, shall we say, and to turn a blind eye. All that needed to be done was for someone to basically say, no, we can't do this, but probably because of the trifecta having the capital to basically say, nope, this is what you're going to do, but we don't care. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to do it. So here we are, folks. Here we are. Oh my God. I want to be surprised by this, but anything those three touch now really doesn't. I can't say that it doesn't affect me. but it doesn't it doesn't shock me anymore. Again, one point is, oh, that's rather interesting. 2, oh, that's kind of strange. 3, once you get to the 4th data point, okay, well, here we go. This is what the data has been trending with, so let's see if it works within our realm of expectations. And that's what's happened here. So, yeah, I got nothing. I seriously have got absolutely fucking nothing with all of this. So, Miroki, it's all yours.
Okay. So yeah, this is what happens when you throw your weight in with an unsavory group of people. State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock kept giving Planet Fitness the impression that they were going to back them up and they were going to double down and they were going to protect them, right? Instead of just simply going, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be supporting this policy. No. They artificially propped it up. And this is the problem when you deal with this particular, and I'm not saying that every person that's trans is a pervert or anything like that, but when you deal with a crowd where there's a much higher statistical probability of something like this coming up, and especially when it comes up to issues of gender and sexuality, it takes just one, and this is something that what I'm encountering it with the manosphere now is that, again, this is something off topic of what we're dealing with here, but what I'm encountering with the manosphere now is that the manosphere is getting bigger, and you're getting a lot of anti-manosphere groups out there now, and they're cherry picking, they're finding the most mentally unstable guys in the manosphere. Shockingly, they haven't found any of us yet, even though we talk about large boobs and all sorts of and space aliens and gimp suits and everything. They haven't found us for some strange reason, or V's onesie, and no, they haven't mentioned us yet at all, which is actually kind of disappointing. But I digress. It takes just one idiot.
Hey, well, hold on a second. I know Veerson has this gimp suit and all, but when the hell did I get a onesie?
You mentioned that you're going to go to the friend of Veerson's friend in Seattle. You're going to go attend to his wedding dressed up in a onesie. When Veerson forgot his suit, he was going to put on his gimp suit instead. Sadly, they couldn't make the wedding.
Okay, I remember that.
All right. So yeah, it takes just one person, and that's literally what it took. It took just one person. And by the way, the name of this guy who did this was Christopher Miller. And yeah, no goddamn kidding, right? This is what happens, right? This is what happens when you start trying to lend support to people like this. You're going to attract you're going to attract the mentally unhinged. You're going to attract guys, for instance, who think that it's a very good idea to go into a Planet Fitness, strip naked, and walk around the women's change room with their fucking dong out, right? And then try to use some legal move to prevent themselves from facing criminal charges. This is what's going to happen. So yeah, the big three brought this on themselves. Period. End of story. And you know what? Again, right? It's a simple thing, right? Either set up a transgender bathroom change room, or if you're biologically male, and yeah, biologically male, biologically female, what is your gender at birth? What is the sexual equipment between your legs, right? Stop fucking arguing. If they argue with you about it, then they don't get to use the facilities. Period. End of story. Problem solved. But nope, they got to do this. And the reason they got to do this is the destruction of the family, sexual, and again, just keep encountering this stuff, the sexualization of children, and the destruction of the family, and of course the potential of lining their pockets from all these gender confused kids growing up that having trouble figuring out whether they're male or female and not and decide to transition. There's good money in that, because if you decide to transition, you have to take drugs, you have to take pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life. Surprise, surprise. And that's pretty much about it, unless anybody else has anything to say on this one. Nope. Okay, so let's go into the last one. Then, and this one is, I found this one not quite as late as the, the Iran strike on Israel, but I did find this. So I'm just going to read it out for you, exactly what this is. So what this is and you heard me talk about it very briefly, or just a few minutes ago. What you're starting to encounter when, or what I've been noticing on, in particular on Facebook, but on Twitter as well, or X, depending upon what it is you're starting to see feminists are beginning to understand, because they're losing the culture war everywhere. Feminists are understanding that they're losing the culture war. The manosphere continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, hold on a second. And as it continues to get bigger, their arguments are having less and less and less effect. And they're having to come out into, which is what we were discussing earlier tonight with David Hogg having to come out into the open against that Second Amendment advocate earlier this week. The same thing is happening here. And among the things that they're attempting to do is they're attempting to, and this is very common for in particular the academic feminists, which if you want to know what academic feminism is, it's just basically radical third wave feminism given an intellectual veneer of legitimacy. The rhetoric that comes out of academic feminism is as hateful and as vile and as disgusting as anything you see out of quote unquote regular third or fourth wave feminists. One of the things they decided to do is they decided that they were going to redefine the word misandry. Misandry, for those of you who don't know, is the word described as a hatred of men. That is the baseline statement, and they are encountering it more and more and more. And it's sort of like, well, no, you're making a hateful statement about men, therefore you are misandric. So what, and you see Destiny was really good at doing it, but what you see here is you attempt to get academics, in this case academic feminists, attempting to redefine the language and to complicate the ever-living crap out of it so that 2 + 2 does not equal 4. And I'm just going to read it off to you. And what they're basically trying to claim here is that the concept of misandry has its roots in patriarchal norms and misogyny. But here, let me just read it off for you. This is the abstract. In recent years, misogyny has become a central concept in philosophy as well as an established concept in public discourse and political policy. But where is misogyny's supposed counterpart, namely misandry? In this article, I will argue for an again, they use these big words, ameliorative analysis of misandry, arguing that it can be reformulated in an effort to reclaim it from its misogynistic weaponization. There's no misogynistic weaponization. It's like, I mean, you have women hating men, right? That's misandry. There's nothing misogynistic about it. The term misandry is used almost exclusively as a misogynistic rhetorical device. No, it's used to call out man hate, mostly done by feminism, for attributing unjust anger, hatred, or other similar emotions to a speaker, thereby undermining the epistemic authority, rather than dismissing the term as conceptually flawed and politically problematic. Again, right? Going to say this, right? What they're attempting to do is they're trying to complicate the ever-living fuck out of the term misandry to make 2 + 2 = 5. And as I'm going through, and by the way, I'm not even halfway through yet on the abstract, and you'll see it gets even more it gets even more bizarre. Rather than dismissing the term as conceptually flawed and politically problematic, I argue that we ought to ameliorate misandry to instead refer to it as felt anger, hostility, or fear towards the patriarchal social order and its vulgarization and or expression in misogynistic and machismo behavior. Need I say more? I'm not done yet. To support these claims, I begin with a discussion of Kate Mann's analysis of misogyny before reflecting on how this can inform our understanding of misandry. I then demonstrate the various ways in which misandry is rhetorically deployed as a means of silencing speakers who express dissent against the patriarchy. Following this, I argue that we should ameliorate the term, not only to undermine these misogynistic practices, but also to articulate a legitimate, effective, and reactive attitude against the patriarchal imposition of a hierarchical gender binary. Yeah, that sound wordy enough to you guys? Yeah, basically what they're trying to do is,
fuck.
You know, it's got an intellectual veneer to it, hence academic feminism. What they're basically saying is that, you know, when we express man hate, the manosphere has this word called misandry that they can just go over and stamp on it, and we don't have a counter argument to it. If we attempt to rebrand or reword misandry to make it more complicated and to make it vague, which is basically a form of word speak to confuse people, misandry loses its impact. And of course, when this got found out, now the author of the study did have it up, and the moment she got discovered attempting to do this, and it started to make its rounds to the manosphere, guess what happened? The study, the static curious, the preprint, it just disappeared off academic presses everywhere. Like the online stuff just vanished. So now I don't have any doubts that this was done because, again, like I am noticing this more frequently is that I mean, one of the things that academics will attempt to do, and this is straight out of 1984 in words, because they will attempt to redefine words. So what you think they mean isn't what they actually mean, because the quote-unquote official version of what it means has been changed. You saw Dr. Fauci do this with herd immunity, and you saw him do this with a number of medical terms during the COVID situation, where they changed basically something different. They turned herd immunity into having enough people get become immune to it, that basically the whole crowd becomes immune to it, and they turned it into something which could only apply if people were vaccinated. They did this with a couple of other words. This is what's called word speak. What this is an attempt to do is they're basically trying to they're trying to confuse you. They're saying, oh well, you don't mean man hate, you mean this. And they've got all of this word salad backing it up. So And it looks legit because it's from an academic source. And of course, right, it is so preposterous. And then I gotta get that quote from somebody where it's something like literally so preposterous and so stupid that only an academic would try it. And this is basically, this is the functioning. This is like genderqueer theory. This is like rape culture. This is like some of the stuff that happened in COVID with the vaccines, right? This is an attempt to control the language and to try to make something mean what it doesn't mean, because the actual meaning of the word is simple and straightforward, and simple and straightforward is very hard to countermand. So you have to go through some complicated intellectual games to make 2 + 2 = 5 instead of 2 + 2 = 4. And as you can clearly see, from what I read, that's exactly how it's turning out. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, I wish I had more to say on this one. I don't know. Isn't it? I mean, you have misogyny. Doesn't one sex determine what it is for the other? Is that how that works?
To my knowledge, yeah, but man hate is basically referred to the dictionary definition of man hate is misandry.
And misogyny is not woman hate?
The misogyny is women hating, yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as we're tracking. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's one of these things I just find ridiculous. Things that divide us, it's astounding. Anything can divide us. We've been a species for at least a couple million years, and we're having issues with the very biological entities that are the other half of us that is required to continue our species. I just find it absurd. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I'm misogynistic. I don't particularly... It's not a weighted issue for me coming from these women. I mean, everybody's got their unique experiences. Just like I'm not going to be listening to anybody on certain issues who's not black. These women who are not men need to chill out on some of the issues. It's really the same with anything. In order to speak on something about somebody else, you need to be trying to relate, participate, relate, stop the hate. Can't do that, and I don't know, go about your merry old way. Don't have to be in my life. You don't have to be in my block. You have to be in my town. I want to see my area code. Don't talk to me. It's all good. You do you, I'll do me. People need to learn that. Yeah, I wish I had more to say on it, but I can't wait to hear Rierson on this. Go ahead.
Considering the public perception, which is starting to grow, of the unreliability, the intellectual dishonesty that has been coming out for quite a while. Let's be honest with ourselves here, folks. I don't remember that name of that fucking woman, the president of, what was it, Harvard, for her plagiarism and probably how rampant plagiarism really is occurring within academia. I mean, I could send my son to university, and U of C, University of Calgary, is fairly, I think, more conservative based. If I really didn't like, I did not like my son at all. Yeah, I'd send him to university. Goes in conservative, he'll come out as a liberal. He'll come out woke. And the move, I believe, with this shift for communism is typically manifested through academia at this point. And so someone is tired of having a word that defines her mentality, her negativity, her natural inclination at this point to hate men just because, well, we're men. The patriarchy. Okay. For a long enough time, women didn't vote. And that's not to say that I don't think a woman should not vote, but when it comes to government, when it comes to politics, things, my opinion is, should be done with a level mental attitude. And I don't think, and again, that generational female college athlete, basketball player, is an exception to the rule, but by and large, women did not want to get involved in politics. They didn't want to vote because they didn't want to be bothered with it. It was more shit that they had to add to their plate at that point in time. Now it's, well, like fourth, maybe fifth wave feminism, whatever that's going to turn into. So these are people, individuals that don't want to be, in one form or another, held accountable. They don't want to be called out for their bad attitude towards the builders, the tradesmen, the military, law enforcement. I don't know what it is that she hates about herself, and it's not my concern. Like, it really is not my concern. Because at the end of the day, whether she can feel it or believe it or doesn't want to acknowledge it, she probably knows that she's intellectually dishonest. She's academically off her rocker. And this is probably her attempt to establish herself as a pseudo-intellectual for a movement that she feels quite strongly drawn towards or is part of for whatever reason or another. I don't know. Now, I'm going to ask the rhetorical question, but let's just say that someone decided to take what she wrote and flip it and to try to change the definition of misogyny. And let's see how well that goes over. Because I don't think that it would have taken very much for someone to do that and to throw it in her face specifically. And let's be honest, to piss off as many feminists as possible who were behind this whole idea to begin with. As I said earlier, I do not like and I do not trust at all the way that society is, the way society is going. I'm not in favor of anything really by and large. And I am of the opinion that if a woman wants to do her thing, she wants to go into the corporate world and work her way up, okay, great, no problem. But she hits the wall and she's got the case of baby rabies, and my spouse had that feeling. She had that urge. It was like, no, I want to be a mother. Eventually had her son. I would like to have had another one, but circumstances dictated otherwise. I'm curious to know what man hurt her in the past that she is the way she is. Because, it's a phrase that's commonly thrown at guys that are walking out of the plantation. Oh, who hurt
I've
you,
got to point
Cupcake?
something out about that "who hurt you" argument. That's an attempt by women to reframe the argument to an emotional basis. When that happens, guys, if you try pulling that, you just reiterate the point that you made earlier. Continue, by the way.
Yeah, I'll go back to my logical argument. Since you want to make it an emotional, I'll just make you just shut the fuck up. But the way that gets thrown at men, I'll throw it at her. Who hurt you, Cupcake? Who damaged your pussy that you just don't like men anymore? I don't really care. But I'll play the same game. And I'm pretty sure that will be, I would be told to shut up pretty damn fast. Incredibly fast, actually. So now, all things being equal, I'll state this for what needs to be said, is that enrollment with post-secondary education outside of trades is in engineering, I guess, as well, too. It is being occupied more and more and more by females. And because they have the expectation that their partner also has to have at least whatever degree they have or better, their dating pool shrinks dramatically. The longer that shopping list is of things that he has to have, which, let's be honest with ourselves, that's not a desired list. That's a set of job requirements that are absolutely required. So I think to compensate, to overcomplicate her issues of basically being dissatisfied with her choice, and probably is well aware that she fucked up, but she might be too old. Her eggs, if she has any eggs that are viable, are probably terribly flawed, or flawed enough that she can't have a child. Maybe she has a couple of cats and regularly drinks out of boxed wine. I don't know. But maybe, it could very well be that maybe that I'm not far off on the truth with this one, is that she has realized she made some bad choices in life, and now because she's too prideful and too emotional that she can't accept responsibility for where she is and why she's just such a heinous cunt, I suppose might be the best words to use. She's lashing out and is trying to make reality fit to what she wants. Don't ask me where the sudden thought tangent came off on my part, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was somehow at least partially right. Now, from what I know about myself, I accept responsibility when it's been brought to my attention that, yeah, this is what you did and wasn't such a great idea. Okay, well, I would like to believe that I'll be able to separate my emotions from what happened. This is what you did. This is what was wrong. You don't want to do this again. You have to do this instead. It's not to say that men don't have egos, that they don't have a strong sense of pride, because we do. But I think that if you're dealing with someone who can be honest with him or himself, more often than not, guys will say, all right, fine. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I done dare fucked up. Do my best not to do it again if they're inclined to want to improve themselves. Someone like her is probably so emotionally invested in what she's been brought up into. Logic, while it should work, she'll fight, kick, scream, and holler to insulate herself, because she knows that she fucked up, but she doesn't want to deal with it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. That's just, like I said, just something that just came to mind out of the blue just now. So take that however you will. I'm going to wrap up with one thing here about the whole Iran-Israel thing as well, and I forgot to mention this. Apparently, and you had brought this up about, I can't remember exactly what you said, but from what I have heard is that the U.S. guaranteed to Iran that there would be no, that's what it was, there would be no consequences if Iran was to attack Israel. So we'll see what's going to happen with all of that, and I've got nothing more to say. I'm all done.
I do believe that happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that the United States is going to stand by and allow Iran to fire multiple missiles at Israel as it sees fit, right? So like I said, what is typically, and again, I suspect we're going to be visiting this more and more frequently, not necessarily this year, but you are going to start to see the manosphere activity ramp up as we get, not so much in the 2024, but especially like when we get into 2025. What you're starting to see here is that you see first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack you, then they win. What they're having to do is that they're beginning to see if the manosphere is getting so large that and all of their excuses are starting to fall apart. And just like what happened with David Hogg on Topic Zero, they cannot go in and start debating these issues mano a mano with these guys, because these guys have all of the issues that are being raised in the manosphere are based in reality. And for feminists to actually come out into the open and debate these issues, it has, the times that it has happened, the feminists have actually ended up being destroyed, or the only reason they've been able to hold their own is because the host ran block for them. Ironically enough, one of those occasions, because I mean, she's now very famous for being very critical about internet censorship, was when Karen Strawn debated Naomi Wolf. Yeah, that Naomi Wolf, the one that was talking about all that internet censorship a couple of years ago. So yeah, the whole situation is, again, right, if you go onto the major social media sites, they, again, right, when it comes to the men, misandry is a very easy word to use because it is thrown around so much and just simply taken with, like, again, which is why a lot of Western women have seriously declined. It's just assumed to be okay in a lot of circles to just treat men badly, which is exactly, I hate to bring up Miss 2016, but that's exactly what Miss 2016 probably thought with me. And she thought that I was gonna take it sitting down. and found out the hard way that it wasn't going to, that was not going to be the case. And what they're doing is that they will attack the personalities. They will bring up Tate did this, Tate said that, Pearl said this, Pearl said that, Rollo said this, Donovan Sharp said this, Terrence Popp said this. You know, they will make it about the peep or Paul Elam. Paul Elam was a deadbeat dad, right? They will do anything other than discuss the issues. In fact, when it's come to MGTOW, they have tried really. That's one of the reasons why a good solid number of MGTOWs, myself included, don't reveal their faces. Right? It gives them something to center on. It gives them the reason why a lot of MGTOWs don't show their face. And I mean, for me, it's also a concern about doxing and so on and so forth. But a lot of it is sort of like, well, I mean, you can kind of take something out of context, but you don't have a target to focus on, right? So you're more or less forced to have to deal with the issue. Or if they do deal with the issue, they'll try to simplify it, like, oh, men sent their own way, or you're just a virgin, you're just an incel or whatever. And then it doesn't really work. It doesn't really fly. It's not going to work long term. And this is an attempt by feminists to attempt to rebrand a word that is doing a lot of damage to them right now, because current modern version of feminism is man-hating and misandric, and they're getting called on it. And that's all I have to say on this issue. Does anybody else have anything more to add, or we can wrap this up? Okay, that's it. Those of you who don't know, I like, share, subscribe. I am at Patreon as Naroki5. YouTube, I'm at that's Gold Dragon at YouTube. But I mean, basically all the other ones I like: BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Brighteon, MGTOW TV. I am a version of Naroki or Naroki5. I am at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe. By the way, is TLB Talk still up and running? Because I saw something on TLB Talk that suggested that it wasn't, V.
Well, shutting down. Free tool and relaunch.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. So yeah, it's I did see something on TLB today that suggested that it was shutting down. I just needed confirmation on that. And Getter, thank you very much for listening to the entire show. Yes, we will be doing a Hollywood show. We're gonna do it Thursday because I don't want to be. This is the third. Otherwise, it would be like 3 podcasts in 4 days, and I've got other stuff to do. And you know what? I just want to not have to worry about what V here was describing as, you just get fatigue after a while, after you have to go in and you have to do, even if it's just like 2 or 3 hours a day. Right, going in every single day and doing it 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 and doing it. Yeah, you just get kind of fatigued after a while, and you need to just back off for a day. That's probably what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, we'll do it Thursday. Rierson, stick around. I need to talk.